right, PUBG fans, Porosaurus here with this edition of Friendly Fire, the ESL Masters Edition. We're going to start off right now with the players. I have with me two players from two of the hottest teams in North America right now. Going to be Snakers and Vegas. Boys, how you doing today?
Doing pretty good.
So the first thing we're going to talk about today is what's been working well for your teams so far. Now, Snakers, Oath is in 4th place with 100 points, not far from first. What's been the key to your team's success so far this tournament?
Honestly, I think I would say kickstart. Like, we've been playing pretty well as a team, but even in our downs, he's definitely been bringing us up and clutching points whenever he can.
I think we would all agree with you that kickstart is pretty useful.
I would say so.
Sometimes I get messages after the game and like before I actually know what the result of the game was, and it's like, God, I love being carried from some members of Oath, so I'm glad that
it's a lot easier to get carried in, especially when the backpack's as big as kickstart's.
That's how it goes.
Vegas, Zenith is currently a team with 2 new members, and yet you're still in the top 6, very much within striking distance of first. What do you think is allowing for your team's success?
I think our team has a lot of like overall experience from the last couple of years. That's helped us do well, like initially, even without like sorting out everything perfectly team-wise. We're top 6, but we don't even have a win yet, and after 12 games, so we're looking to come out strong next week, and I think we'll be good.
There's a lot of cadets floating around in these big teams these days, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we're the best. You know, we practice together every day, and now we cadets are the best for sure.
Kickstart just joined your team from Zenith, and he's currently 3rd in overall damage, tied for first place in kills with Pencil from SDK, yada yada yada. We've already sung enough about Kickstart at this point. As a player who's won the most damage award from PCS 1 and 2, how big of an impact would you say that he and his damage he's putting out is making on your team?
Well, Kick definitely has like a huge impact in terms of damage. And like, I also feel like I changed as a player from being less of like just shooting at everything back in PCS 1 and 2. But especially now, having someone like Kickstart that obviously gets a lot more like kills and damage than we're used to. Like he's almost like doing what I used to do right now, because it's like 2 people fighting for kills instead of like 1 now, if you know what I mean.
Okay, so make some predictions for this weekend. Obviously, we're going to be showing this right at the beginning of the grand finals. So currently, Oath has 1 chicken dinner. Zenith has 0. What team do you think will end up with the most chicken dinners at the end of the tournament?
Honestly, I think we'll have the most. Like, we generally get a lot of wins. Like, we had the most wins overall last year. And like, it's kind of our style. Like you guys have seen, we'll get like 0-point games and then we'll just come out with like a 13 kill win. Like, that's how we get a lot of our points. And I think we definitely could have had way more wins this week. Like, we lost a few games that we should have won, but like in our usual play style, I feel like we'll definitely end with more wins than Zenith at least.
All right. Well, I mean, just want to point out back to group stage in the harder lobby, we won 3 games in 1 day in ESL, so we've got the potential. It's there. So still 12 games left. I wouldn't be surprised if we get at least 2 more wins next week. We had just rough first week, no wins. It's whatever, you know, not everything goes your way. I wouldn't be surprised if we get at least 2 wins next week. So I guess it just depends on if both want to show up or not next week, or Kickstart, sorry. But if Kickstart wants to show up next week, we probably both get 2 wins next week.
I'm playing with fire, referring to the qualifiers lobby as the harder lobby right there.
Hey, we got 3 wins in that lobby too.
Yeah,
okay?
exactly.
So at least we'll tie next week, if anything.
Okay, we've gotten to the fun part, and I know this is the part that Vegas was excited about. This is a trash talk segment. Snakers, who do you think wins the 1v1?
Honestly, I think it's a good 50-50. More 60-40 for me, though, sometimes.
I can check my notepad, but I'm pretty sure after about 380 1v1s, we're within 1 or 2. It's even. I've got a track.
Wait,
so
you have 380? I only have 362.
Okay, well, it's close. I mean, you were really young, you had school and everything. I get it, but I think you're catching up. So we're pretty 50-50. You know, I think it's a pretty even fight.
Who's better at close range?
I have my days, honestly. Just depends. Depends how confident I'm feeling.
Yeah, I think I think with me and Snakers in every category, it depends on the day for sure.
Snakers, you pick up an alm if it's in the final circle?
Oh, definitely. That gun is insane. All you gotta do is body shot someone, and that you either hit them for 90 or they're just dead. So it's kind of free.
we can all agree that we're both going to be a little bit pissed off that it's not an MK14.
I might say that, man, I wish that was an MK14, like in my team comms, but in my heart, like I really wanted that crate to be an AUM, I think.
It's like, just want to let them know. Gotta let them know. But I'm gonna actually do something even rarer for you two, and I'm going to give you a chance to say something nice about the other one. Snakers, what nice thing can you say about Vegas?
Vegas is like a super like dedicated player, and he'll always be looking for like ways to improve and like just improve individually and his game.
Vegas, same question.
I think Snakers is really good at doing multiple things in real life and still maintaining like a really high skill ceiling in PUBG. Like Snakers in college now. Snakers has a lot of work to do. He's been through a lot, you know, going to Korea while still doing school, and he still maintains consistently over the course of years to be one of the best players. So
actually is incredibly impressive stuff, Snakers. Good for you, buddy. All right, with the grand finals final weekend coming up this weekend, you guys are both in fantastic striking position for that first place spot. Vegas, what does Zenith need to do to take home that final championship?
I think we need to keep doing what we're doing in a grander scheme, and I think this 1 week reset and the scrims are really going to help us just narrow down the last couple like overall strategy things. But I think a lot of the mistakes we made this week were not really team-related things. I think it was a little bit of small individual mistakes that were the difference between getting 8 points in the game and getting 15 points in the game. Like we were really close, but we just weren't there.
Now, Snakers, I know going into this weekend, Oath basically ran the table in terms of scrims. I mean, every single day y'all had the most amount of points out of everybody. But hey, it's scrims, right? What do you guys need to do going into this final weekend to take home that championship?
We definitely need to start closing out more games, which we're normally good at, but we've been slacking a little bit. And I think if like all of us show up instead of like only 2 of us or only 1 of us, then we're definitely going to dominate.
So everybody showing up, that is the answer.
You know, if we got me and Kickstart both getting 25 kills, we're winning for sure.
That will do it. Sure. Thank you guys so much for joining me. We're going to see how well you two do this next weekend. I think a lot of people out there are rooting for you. You have any shout outs you want to give on your way out, Snakers?
Definitely shout out to all the fans and the viewers who always support us, and Oath, and just all the PUBG fans.
A shout out to my family that watches all the games whenever they are. I appreciate it greatly.
Love you, Mr. Scott. All right, that is going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching this edition of Friendly Fire, and make sure to watch the thrilling conclusion of the PUBG ESL Masters America Grand Finals coming up this weekend. The only thing they can do is try to send it on a spicy fish sharp shot. What a grenade. And that is it for Shrimsy. What a hold. Halo creeping around on the street side. They are not expecting this flank. He spots the head. He spots Shimboy. He's down.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're watching around the world. It is time for the ESL PUBG Masters Americas. My name is Toffees. I will be sort of leading our soiree as we head through the final weekend of play. It's going to be a lot of fun with a lot of money on the line, but I will not be doing it alone. I asked the best and brightest minds in PUBG to join me on the desk. They were busy, but Cameron and Clover were available, guys. I'm kidding. I love you. You know that. You've been here before. I can't wait to hear the breakdowns. Let's get into it. Cameron, how you feeling today?
Doing good. We had a great number of games yesterday. It really sort of set us up with a certain level of expectations for the rest of the weekend. It's love to see it all play out.
Clover, any thoughts on the event so far? Are you excited about today? Give me some feedback.
I'm so excited. I mean, we opened yesterday with the military circle and some really chaotic games, and I'm excited to see how that momentum continues today.
Yeah, military game. I don't want to get into it. Gas can't seem to win there. They can't win anywhere. I don't. Okay, let's go into looking at prize pools because we're trying to win money here. 12.5K for first place, 500 for last, and I know, Toffees. Why consolation prizes for the worst? Because they're not. 128 teams started this thing. 64 from each region, and at the end of the day, only 8 from each of the 2 regions, Latin America and North America, were able to come together to battle for supremacy. But they're not just fighting for money, Cameron. They're fighting for something that I would argue is even more valuable and will be insanely important when we talk about the millions available down the line. What is that?
Yeah, that's PGC points. You got to start now collecting all those points to qualify for the international at the end of the year. You're going to get more points throughout the course of the year, but still, you want to start now.
Start strong. It's like the game of PUBG, right? You start strong and then you win in the end. It's a big move. Let's look at the overall standings. Clover, walk me through this. Give me hope that we don't already have a winner.
Ooh, I mean, it's going to take a lot of hope. Sonics, right? Second place, 127 to shoot to kills 189. But I will say this, they had kind of a middling performance yesterday. It wasn't their best day. It wasn't terrible, but I think if Sonics can have a strong day today, a strong day tomorrow, we could see them close the gap, but it's really going to rely on the rest of these teams to go after shoot to kill.
I like that you're trying. I love that you're trying. Here's the issue.
If they perform great, they can close the gap. Not overtake them, just close it a little bit.
Close the gap. I mean, Cameron, what were you saying about numbers earlier today? It's like STK could get nothing?
If STK gets 0 points throughout the rest of the tournament in the next 2 days, second, third, and fourth place will have to get around average 65 points within those 2 days to catch up. And that's not impossible, but that's still a good day, 30-something points each day. And that's, again, if STK gets 0.
Let's talk about good day. Yesterday, 371 points were up for grabs. 34% of those points went to STK and Durani, which I think we should take a look at because Durani has had a great game and they are one of our sort of 3 teams to watch going forward.
Yeah, Durrani, as you said, had an amazing day yesterday. They got 57 points in one day, coming up from being more in the middle of the leaderboard. It was an amazing growth, amazing explosive resurgence. Yeah, they didn't perform as well as STK, but if they stay on this trajectory, we could be looking at a top-level team, not just in Latin America sub-region, but the Americas region overall. Their team play is amazing. Emmy might be the standout performer there, but really it's more them being bigger than the sum of their parts. They actually have some pretty solid kill victories over STK and Oath, 11-10, and then 9 against 5, respectively.
You know, I mean, on the flip side of that, 22 Esports has kind of been a bit of a middling team. When we look at them week after week after week, their average placement's about 7.8, and we kind of see this flip of either, you know, getting themselves into the mid game, maybe 6th, 4th place, or going out kind of early. And I really think that the biggest problem from them has been the edge plays. We can see even this fight right here with Zenith finding themselves pinched, so able to get a decent amount of kills. We've seen a lot of good work coming from Haston. He's got so much experience playing with both LATAM and North America. Unfortunately for 22, if they can't get themselves in a good position in that mid zone, they really struggle beyond that.
Yeah. The last team we also wanted to look at is going to be Young Kings. They're currently sitting in 9th place, just below 22 Esports, and a similar story for them. We really need to see a big resurgence. Unfortunately, yesterday, they only got 6 points. The first weekend, they had a couple of wins. They had a couple of podium finishes as well. And one you can see on your screen right now has had some notable clutch plays of his own. The problem is they tend to lose too many players throughout the mid game. So even though their end game can be strong and powerful, they just don't necessarily have all the tools that they would have liked to otherwise. They're really going to need to pick it up. We know they have the tools. KF9 also put some good numbers up on his own. But once again, it's this whole growth that we need to see from Latin America. They're getting better on average overall. It's just we're running out of time here.
Yeah, I mean, Young Kings are great, but right now they're kind of just princes. I hope that they ascend to the throne. We'll see if we get there as they continue to improve. But let's pivot away from a little bit of what we talked about. We've been sort of talking about Latin America versus North America. How are the regions coming together? Yesterday changed that monologue a little bit for me, Clover, with 2 teams, only 2, STK and Durani, getting 34% of the points that were up for grab. That is a insane, ratio in terms of how everyone else didn't do well. What do we take away? If you're one of the 2 teams, or not 2 teams, if you're one of the other 14 teams that were sharing less than 75% of the points, what does that tell you? How do you adjust? Are we too top heavy? What's going on?
I think that we've really kind of proven that you can't make many excuses for poor performance for some of these teams. We've seen players kind of come out and say, you know, whether it is ping, whether it's, you know, teams coming together, not used to playing each other, and to have some strength from both regions, from two teams that wouldn't necessarily go head to head. The consistency and the growth from Durrani, things that Cameron pointed out against a powerhouse like Shoot to Kill. The rest of those teams need to stop making excuses, and they need to just start going for it, because I think that they really need to change that mindset going forward into today.
Is that part of it? Is it mindset changing, Cameron? I know I've seen some conversations. Batulin from Virtus Pro and over in Europe talked about how they're only thinking about future formats right now, and anything they play in the current system is sort of looking towards the future. Do you think that's part of some of these teams underperforming?
No, because if you're talking about future formats, you got to get to the end game with 4 players up to have even a chance. Like that's sort of what it comes down to. You can talk about different team strategies, the way that different teams approach the game, but at the end of the day, it is all about how does this particular team best get 4 players up in the end game in order to get that win. And for future formats, it's only going to be even more important. So that is not an excuse for these teams that constantly lose players in the early game, lose players in the mid game, don't have strong positioning.
Right.
Those are only going to be more important traits to have.
I'm trying to give them an out. It just can't be done. Step up. All right, we are changing things a little bit this week. We're starting with the Wrangle and ending with Miramar. Clover, that means the last match of this event is in the desert, which is a little bit unique. So, like, we don't often see that. Are there any teams that we think will actually benefit from this, or is it maps or maps?
I mean, right now, Shoot to Kill is looking great on both maps, right? They're having great games no matter where we are. But I think that for starting out Erangel strong, that might be the good momentum that Sonics need to, as we talked about earlier, close that gap on Shoot to Kill. I'm feeling Sonics today.
All right, let's do a team talk right now, Cameron. Pick the team you want. Any team out there. Who are you watching for this game? Not necessarily to win, but who are you keeping an eye on, and tell me why.
Yeah, I want to keep looking at Durrani. We know that Latin American teams perform better on Erangel, and so for the team from Latin America that has the best chance of contending for the top, they need to get all of their points now, looking at their previous history of where they're most successful at.
Okay, Clover, who are you keeping an eye on for this game in particular, and tell me a little bit about why.
I'm keeping an eye on Oath. I know that I said I think Sonics are going to come out strong, and I still feel that that's true, but Oath definitely performs well on Erangel, especially if we get those circles that hang to the east near their landing spots. So I want to see Oath kind of come out on top for today as well with their Erangel matches.
Cameron, tell me about the fish. The spicy fish started slow. They've been climbing, but we haven't talked about them a lot. Have you noticed anything? Are they coming alive or falling apart?
It's match to match. It's sort of what we expected by this super team all coming together. Individually, we know that these are 4 great players, and you can see in the number of clutch plays and the clutch highlights that they have. Unfortunately, looking past those shining beacons, there's a lot of double-digit finishes. There's a lot of games that you can tell is through growing pains. It's through really getting that chemistry in together, which is not too much of a shock. The question will be, will this group of 4 be able to grow past that?
I hope that it happens. Guys, it is time for us to get into the first game of the day. Only 8 matches left to play until we crown a champion of the ESL PUBG Masters. Cameron mentioned 4 great players. Well, we've got 2 great players who retired are even better casters. Calling the match. It is Godspeed and Hypoc. And bye!
That was pretty good. Thank you so much for that phenomenal intro. Of course, I am Godspeed, and I'm joined by the ever so handsome and wonderful Hypoc. How you doing, man?
Doing good, yeah. Excited for another night of action. Last night was, well, I don't want to call it just yet, but SDK starting to run away with it. I still want to believe, man.
I still want to believe as well. The only issue is, in order for us to believe POC, we have to root against SDK, which at this point is really, really hard. But yeah, it's very possible if SDK has like a travesty of a day, they don't get any points, or they just don't connect to the lobby. I think as you were saying earlier,
it's happened, man.
Crazier things have happened. But yeah, look, we still have 4 games today. We have 4 games tomorrow, on top of the fact that there's a lot of teams still vying for 2nd, 3rd, 4th place. So even if SDK does tend to run away with this, they get some good games in today, which I mean, it's kind of hard not to expect that from them. Yeah, we'll see.
Oh, for sure. I mean, there's still a race on for, arguably the other 5 positions, right? Out of the top 6 at least, which is where I guess the big chunk of change is there. So yeah, whether or not we're going to call the first place running over yet, there's still everything to play for.
Exactly, and the other thing I want to talk about as well is the fact that something that Des hit on is that Durrani and some of the Latin American teams are starting to really, press it up, especially as we start to head towards the end of our event here, which I really wish they had done a little earlier, but hey, signs of life now is better than nothing.
Absolutely. It's pretty vanilla plane, I'll say that. Everything pretty much achievable. One thing, and again, this is obviously things that kind of get quelled from the qualifier stages, but not too much of an overlap, which obviously talking about the regional crossover, haven't really seen. I mean, eyes go towards a team like STK. We know how much they like to assert their dominance in the early game, especially around not just in the city they drop in, but the compounds surrounding it, the car spawns, all of those things.
Yeah, on top of the fact that them coming in is a little bit of a drop issue. A lot of the Latin American teams, as we learned in the past, actually changed their drops specifically because they didn't want to have to deal with some of the North American pressure as well. And interestingly, in an interview as well, we got from one of the members from Latin America that said that a lot of the American teams are actually much harder to play against. Spicy Fish rotating in. Spicy Fish is another team as well. I actually really like this team, Pock, simply because even though they started really, really slow, I feel like they've been able to come together. They got their bearings straight finally, and we're starting to see the team that we thought we'd see coming into this event.
Yeah, I mean, that's okay. Of course it is. Of course it is.
You and me, of course.
Yeah, it's got to be, right? And I was just about to make a point. Spicy Fish is. I think you got to put them in the same kind of bracket as Gascans, albeit way more successful so far throughout his Masters. But what is going on here?
We have someone, I believe it's
got a pump.
Viz King.
This is unfortunate.
This is.
I mean, it could not be further away from the circle. So how long we actually is he just going to drown?
Yep.
Yeah, just give it up. Give it up.
There isn't a shred of hope for Viz King as he is going to go down so fast. First death of the game.
And that's first blood of the day.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So that should start us off at an interesting note. I don't remember the last time we had a first blood due to a drowning, but here we are. It's going to be Young Kings.
I think it was I think it was a reconnect as well. You can see obviously the rest of his teams dropped down towards Quarry, so hate to see that. But at least Young Kings don't benefit a kill point from it, right? I mean that's the best possible outcome at that point, right? If you're Viz King, you're not going to make it out of that water. You're definitely not going to make it past that beach. You might as well deny the point. And that's just another unfortunate start for Akreshe. I mean, they've kind of been struggling. They were definitely hot coming into this event, especially because of sparking. But yeah, that team has struggled. Yeah. And Oath, another team that hasn't really struggled, but it's been a little slow for them as well. They've been quietly amassing these points. Some of their games have been explosive. Others have been kind of quiet. Yeah, and I think obviously with the addition of Kickstart to this roster,
yeah, for sure.
Maybe, I mean, I'm guilty of it myself, but maybe expecting just a lot more bang immediately. But it's, do you know what? With the roster change, to still maintain the same performance that you'd probably previously expect, and to, I guess, keep up that standard. There's no shame in that whatsoever. I mean, again, every roster change has allowed a slight transitional period until everybody's kind of on the same page and everything. But I guess mentality-wise, that team actually as a 4 now were probably all closer to the same sort of ethos, I guess, when they look at how they want to play.
Yeah, especially with how successful we saw Kickstart at PGAS. But meanwhile, we have the gas cans with Adams slowly scouting out this compound that 2 members of Spicy Fish are in, and it looks like they're actually going to go for a crash here. Early
yeah,
aggression.
This is interesting because Shoutouts just got gunned. Okay, yeah, Oldless actually going to open things up here. It's interesting because Spicy Fish were in a 2-2 split on the north and south of this. So Keenan, the last man standing here at the compound. They're going to push on through.
Yeah, and this is what I absolutely love from the gas cans. I mean, even when they've been struggling, sometimes they've even been going out flat out early due to these early fights, they still are continuing on this trajectory. They're still getting the crashes, and they're playing aggressive. And that's, I think, honestly, that's what you need, especially if you are a team that tends to be more aggressive, if you're not finding the points where you need them. So I love that gas cans are sticking to their guns.
Yeah, I mean, a better day yesterday. As much as that's kind of a throwaway comment, because other than what the win in round 9 is about the only other thing really to write home about. But some decent kill counts, especially in the last 2 games yesterday, and both third places as well. So it's good to see them, especially in a circle like this. Try and build a little bit of early momentum, get some confidence boosters early on. Because again, expectations-wise, that's probably one that eyes were looking towards, especially coming into this year with the performance they showed last year.
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely looking at them as well, especially with the roster changes. But the other good thing for this lobby is we see these teams start to rotate in, as we actually see most of the teams start to rotate in, is that this is obviously a melee-based circle, and STK notoriously don't always have the best games on melee-based. So if you are kind of rooting against STK, this might be one of those circles where you're pretty happy because the rest of the lobby might be able to catch up at least a little bit here.
Dude, I mean, they keep saying this themselves, but like, how long do we keep just believing them again? They've got so much better at melee circles.
Yeah,
and it used to be, don't get me wrong, like, they would go out to a bridge camp, or they'd go out to, like, some team would rat them on the south coast or something. And they were trying to rotate in, but I'm beginning to believe more and more, like, some of their best games are melee circles, because they can salvage, they always put up kill points, they can always identify the right spots on the map in order to find those points. And yes, 90% of the other teams are worried about just rotating to the circle. STK are like, let's just get kills.
Shots coming out from Sonics, but to go back to that point as well, yeah, you're right. They also, I've noticed STK is more comfortable taking later rotations in melee as well. Like they might even sit, tank a bit of blue just to make sure that they get across safely. And I think you're right. I think that's an excuse at this point. I don't think melee is their weakest circle. I don't really think they have a weak circle.
Gonna have it anymore, man. They're not having it anymore.
No more freebies. A Crochet now, though, on the edge next to that west bridge, just at that compound there, that double glass building. We'll see if they're able to spot that out. Meanwhile, the aquatic team of Zenith is making their way right in the middle. This is rough.
You have to break LOS with the ferry.
Yeah, no, this is amazing. I like this. This is actually a very intelligent play from Zenith, and that they're just going to cruise. They're just going to free escort.
We'll have to re-explore a little bit further down. Just take a look at the map. Actually, nobody over to the east side of this. Obviously, gas cans do occupy, Lodge now, and they're running a bit of a 2-2 split. Just slightly north of that as well towards the runway. So Zenith have a good opportunity at least to find land. But back over here, we have 303. So Sonic's actually now making the move across the bridge and wisely taking himself out of the situation, because it would have been a 3-team fiesta over on the west bridge here. So Sonic's wise to it. And actually, new compound is wide open right now.
Yeah, which is rather rare, especially for a melee base.
Well, this stage of the game,
this early, this is actually a little crazy. As shoot to kill start to, again, they're actually staying and looting in the blue longer. This is a really good strategy, especially when you're coming from a place looting from Southshore specifically, Pac.
Yeah, and I had my eye on Kurt. Kurt actually rotated a little bit east to spot out. I guess it would have been Coffee at the time, but him and Hiagan have moved a little south now, so I'm not sure whether or not that was him attempting to set up on his. I mean, we talked about it literally out of the plane, right? STK, a team that like to assert their dominance, keep a lot of those teams that do drop close to them, not necessarily in a shared drop spot, but I guess in the surrounding area. STK like to keep them honest, right?
Yeah.
Maybe find one kill every couple of games, or set up a rotation camp every so often, but it's like it's not going to come through this time around.
Oh, it's incredibly important as well to establish those strong points of interest, especially around rotations, right? Because if you're going to allow a team to rotate past you every time for free, I mean, they're just going to start taking advantage. And SDK is definitely one of those teams, as you said, that's not going to let anyone do that. And the other interesting note about this game as we watch the circle close here, Pac, is the fact that pretty much every team is already on the island. I feel like, especially with some melee games, we don't see all the teams. It usually takes about a circle or two for everyone to kind of get settled in. But, I mean, aside at this point from SDK and Oath, who's already making their way in on the east side, I mean, all these teams are kind of set up.
Yeah, it is. I mean, new compound's still open. Sonic's actually jumped past that and took the high ground. Way over to the west side of the base itself. 303 just now crossing the bridge, so maybe they will identify it's open. But again, it's weird. I guess everybody's just driving past it thinking surely it's taken by now. But
well, because it is. It usually is at this point, yeah.
But, I mean, lots of things actually scattered down to the south there as well. Sonic's a lot of damage onto later here.
They're actually going to
all the way back over to the west. Yeah,
they're going to make it out. This isn't the worst area for them to find themselves either. That, especially when it's with this new shift as well. That grandma's as well as the that one-story cottage across the street is very nice. But 300 is actually going to continue to go south.
Yeah, and Gas is 2-2 looking pretty juicy right now. Looks like they're considering regrouping to the south. But I mean, other than the base itself, this is a tricky circle. It's pretty much, I mean, other than the compounds that are occupied, it's terrain, right? If you're opting for that in phase 2 and 3, it's going to be a slow game for you.
On top of the fact that this circle being so much water, I mean, the actual playability itself, especially around Gascan's POC, is really minimal. It's just open field. So a lot of these teams are going to have to either come in with vehicles or use smokes in a really interesting way to even cross a lot of this, as we see Sonics now going up towards the middle of the map. Meanwhile, Zenith actually has a really good spot here to receive anyone rotating in. It looks like it might just be Durrani.
Yeah, Durrani's the first, but they got to be careful because, again, Oath are a little further afield, and if they show too early, then I see Shinboy going to open things up. Finds the first knock here, we'll get the flush as well. I think that's going to be the green light for Durrani to head a little further inland.
And as easy as that kill was for Shinboy, honestly, I feel like the experience that this kid has gotten, especially over PGIS, and how much confidence he seems to be playing with now, it's just been amazing watching this guy grow. I mean, and Poon.
This is the other team old times were rotating. It's another one we were talking about that potentially could be pulling up on top of Zen. Tiggleton.
Almost from distance.
That's from south side of the runway, actually.
Yeah. That's actually from planes. They might be able to get him up here, but Old Time as well had to back off, and Sonic's just bullying everybody right now.
Does allow Durani to get Capitan back on his feet at least, and the smoke should provide enough cover. See a couple of shots getting sent in, and Zenith actually, I guess, posturing up to maybe push onto this. Again, it's finally making their rotation. Almost a Na'Vi rotation of sorts.
That's true. Na'Vi actually did take this.
They did. They were the first.
Twice, I think.
They were the first to use the train on Vikendi and whatever event that was where they played Vikendi, and they were the first to use the ferry as well.
Hey, public transportation. I mean, you got to use it when you can. That boat is gonna it's gonna ferry across SDK. Obviously, they still have a ways to go. But the other interesting thing as well, Pac, is the fact that that boat, where it stops on that coast, that little dock harbor, is completely open for SDK.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I mean, depends
and there's
really
a
how
crate
late
there too.
Yeah, I was gonna say it depends how late 300 are gonna stay there, but Shinboy actually gonna spot out another member of Durani now. So he'll put his second kill on the board for Zenith, and they're clearing a lot of this pressure.
Really nice
in
shots.
Anticipation of, I guess, getting an edge that holds onto this high ground here. Maluk, obviously, way down to the south. He's just on border patrol almost.
Yeah, and at this point, Zenith has so much control over the south that realistically they should be bullying and kind of enforcing their will on this edge of the circle, especially as we're about to go into the shift. And if there's more water in this pocket, it's going to be absolutely brutal for all the
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
I mean, it's perfect for Zenith, though. The situation we were just talking about is going to give them a fantastic edge on the east.
And honestly, this is really good for SDK, who hasn't even come into the circle yet. It's almost as if the red
pretty much going to be
has rolled out. Yeah, that's out of control. As we also now see Cresce trying to rotate in 22 Esports as well on the northeast side. That should be rough. As we're starting to see that bunch up by not only Oath but some remnants of Durani, as well as Enrage and Zenith, who are just holding out the east.
There's a few teams actually making a mad dash, and like I said, there's not an awful lot in Circle 2, let alone Circle 3 now, as Sonic's you get some visitors on the doorstep. Zampa actually finds the first two here.
And wow.
Yeah.
Just like that, in check. Okay. I was
quickly dealt with.
Oh, wait, Young Kings. Young Kings has actually decided to crash here, and who is going to get knocked? This is their opportunity to take that. Zampa now trying to heal. Nades coming out. So much damage going on. Can Zampa survive? He's solo. And one's going to find him, and that's the trade. But the rest of Sonics is still safe.
Seems he gets confirmed from distance here, but Zampa now in a world of trouble. Tickleton across the road, not really able to provide too much cover on this, given the sight lines. Zampa, I mean, it's going to take a miracle for him to get out of this situation. More nades getting sent in as well.
Luckily, he does have the cover. I say the rest of Sonics, meanwhile, is actually just, I believe, Twin now. It's, or excuse me, Tig. Twin went down, and it's just a 2-on-2, and Zampa has to be careful. Nades and utility all over the place. Obviously, those mollies, he's got to be careful. Luckily, the crate can block a lot of the explosion damage that is being sent his way, but still Zampa in a world of trouble. If he can get a knock and alleviate some pressure from one of the members, he might be able to back out, but...
this is the problem. Like I said, the sidelines just aren't great for him.
Yeah.
And with Dodge as well, putting some pressure onto him. It'll be really difficult. Like I said, it's going to take a miracle for Zampa in this 1v3 scenario here. But it looks like he's going to go for it. He's actually looking to play this pretty aggressively.
Yeah, and he has smokes. Meanwhile, in the distance, 303 was going to get eliminated by 300, but Zampa, as you said, still going for it. Flash going out.
Oh, he's so
getting
blind.
From the side. Finna, no!
Not sure if there was a back and forth with flashes there, but if he caught himself off with that blind, it's unfortunate.
Meanwhile, on the northeast side, Oath is now struggling. As we said, it was going to be definitely a crunch to get in over here on this side of the map, but Tig is still firing away, man. Can he get that kill? Can he steal the knock? He might. That's another point going their way. Sonic's needing 5 kills now. Very nice. And circle shift is to be expected.
Yeah, it is, but I mean, Gas still sitting pretty, and you know what? 303 pulling up onto 300 at the time they did gave SDK even more so safe passage to get themselves into the circle. See Zenith now in a position where that edge has shifted west slightly for them, but still got a lot of space, whether or not there's any terrain for them to play, and it's only really Spicy Fish on their side of the circle, and we know they've taken casualties early on.
Yeah, I believe it's just 2 members of Spicy Fish now left in, I think that's a shack. The only shack actually in that field is where the last 2 members are going to find themselves. Meanwhile, SDK here have quite a bit of ground to work with. They still have the edge of this dock compound in, so that means they can take their time, get sightlines on teams that they know may be around them or may not be around them. And then on top of that, they can actually push up to the east, Puck, on that coast and potentially meet Zenith.
Yeah, they can. It's difficult. I think with STK spotting 300 as early as they can, they might see this as an opportunity to hold them, gatekeep this side of the circle almost. As 300 actually hopping into vehicles at a minute. We'll have to keep an eye on that, but
their options are not great. I mean, it's going to have to be a crash one way or another, whether they want to try to pull
the gas counter STK, yeah.
Yeah. It's either an edge or a compound. We'll find out where they go. As a tire has gone on the rear wheel as well. That is awful. Those buggies are rear wheel drive, and they do not do well with one tire out.
Actually, Honey Badger getting a knock onto Luke could open the door for 300. I'm not sure if they have any knowledge of what team this is. Pentagon will land a couple of shots initially, another one as well, but can't get Neff out of that buggy, unfortunately. He's going to be able to find a safe spot up on the rocks.
Oh, and he's got to be careful. That fence is eating all the bullets. Vox going to go down inevitably. Wasn't able to get further in that buggy. That's going to be a knock, and now it's just down a Neferhor, actually, for 300.
Like I said, he did manage to escape. But I think just a matter of time. He's looking back over this way, but not sure if he fancies his chances. Meanwhile, actually, way back on the east, Zenith actually keeping 4 up here. I know they were taking a lot of pressure from both teams to the north, trying to bounce back and forth into vehicles and find a safe spot. But 22 Esports, 3 strong.
Still on edge,
shots. Yeah, it's still, actually, wow, Shinboy. You'll find Vinny actually with that.
Yeah, Shinboy has been real.
He's on today.
Real on fire, yeah. So
and
far
again.
today. I think he heard us. He knows we're talking well about him. This is his time.
His ears are burning.
Confidence is flowing, and yeah, that's going to push 22 Esports off of that angle. And again, Zenith not giving up an inch of this ground on the east side, doing a very good job. 4 kills, 3 of those coming, 4 of those, excuse me, the way coming of Shinboy. And now 22 has been dealt with, and this entire east side now in control.
Just like
for
I said,
Zenith.
I mean, phase 2, Zenith were fighting for this and pressuring teams that were rotating in. And I mean, just before that shift, they were looking pretty good right now.
I mean, they were hurting everyone away.
Yeah, they're in the position where, I mean, ultimately nothing to rotate into. Neff actually took the option to try and crash this shack, and I'm not sure if it was Unciv or Roth that actually dealt with him, but he did go out. last member of 300, but now, I mean, for Zenith, it's pick your poison.
Yeah, and Young Kings also holding on to the spot that they were able to take from Tiggleton with a little bit of help of Dodge, but now Dodge find themselves on the outside of the circle here, just on the north, and they are slowly running out of time. Even though they do have 5 kills, it's been a lot of damage coming out from Hikerman as well as Finna, as they found some kills and knocks from distance. But again, they need to get in, and they do have options. They could potentially skirt the west, but then that would put them in line of sight of gas cans. So they're gonna have to be careful here on how they approach.
SDK starting now to make moves out to the east. Again, this is a spot Neff pulled into. It's relatively safe, I guess, in terms of sight lines, but Zenith on the move. They could actually meet SDK here. They're both pulling towards the same sort of area. There's a kind of plateau here that I guess both teams want to play. Poonage actually going to take shots here. Going to make him rethink things, but no, actually, look at this. Shinboy, Vegas, and Maluk all going to come up and reinforce this. Halo gets the opening knock.
And they're all potentially in a bull around that crate as well. Grenades are a huge factor. Yeah, they need to pull off. Poonage will lose his life for that information, but Zenith will survive. And now, I mean, even still, SDK. Oh!
Penta.
That is huge. That is absolutely huge. The more they cripple Zenith, the more room they have to play on this east side, and the less guns they have looking at them when they're trying to make that push. Massive knock.
It was actually, yeah, I was going to say, gas cans smell blood in the water. They've heard all this from the compound. And Shinboy going to punish that. Honey Badger trying to flex out to the south with Adam to try and third party this engagement. But Shinboy and Maluk now, I mean, they've identified there's somebody in the shack. I think this is their best option, really. And there's only a small window of opportunity to make use of it.
Yeah, they got to go now. Meanwhile, Dodge is starting to make that push onto Young Kings. They absolutely had to, with nowhere else really to go. We're going to suffer a knock now. 2 knocks is just down to Hikerman for Dodge in a 1v2. It's possible. Young Kings is low. Needed to hit a headshot there. Hikerman's going to go around. Can he find the knock? That's one. No.
The trade. The
nice
trade was
nice
so
trade.
on point there, yeah.
Oh,
and finally, yeah, Maluk dealt with that. It was STK kind of, I guess, shadowing Zenith round back towards Spicy Fish and actually bailing Spicy Fish out, to be honest with you, because Zenith were mounting a push towards the shack, and no surprises here. The golden positioning in Circle 2, still just as golden towards the end game here. Gas cans did manage to get the res off. They're still 4 strong.
This is kind of one of those things where it's, you got to be kicking yourself if you're Spicy Fish. Obviously, they had that compound. Gas cans took it from them when they had that early split, and now they're stuck in this unfavorable position in a shack just on the outside with a full team of SDK breathing down their necks. So now what is the play here? Once SDK takes this, I mean, even still, they have a hell of a run to make it towards the gas cans. On top of the fact that Young Kings is still alive in the north.
Yeah, just thinking timing-wise, Young Kings, whether or not they can play the backside of the ridge there for long enough. Actually, Civ, wow, that's a fantastic shot onto Kurt. Knock him here is really SDK. I mean, they're going to run out of utility eventually. They can't run the clock down on this, and it's difficult because the doorway to the shack is on the opposite side to them, so they can't even nade their way onto this, as we know SDK love to do. Halo making moves now, trying to get another off angle here to bail SDK out or apply a little bit of pressure back onto Spicy Fish.
Yeah, they're doing their best. Civ gonna get knocked. It's so hard to play this shack, especially as a duo, because one's gonna be trying to constantly peek, one's gonna be in the doorway, but it seems as though all the utility in that knock might just do it in. Here comes Penta. He's got the nade ready. Roth has to get out. He knows that. That's gonna be it. Very clean. Well done. Even still, SDK is not out of it yet.
Kurt did fall in that, but Alo managed to reposition to the ridge I was talking about, actually. Young Kings, I don't want to say giving up, but maybe caught sleeping in terms of that.
A little bit, yeah.
That window of opportunity they had to make their way into this. I mean, up to 8 kills already at this point, you know, take what else you can. With a scrappy game like this, there wasn't an awful lot to play for in the mid-game, and they were the victors of, I guess, the south side of the runway.
Inevitably, though, they do find themselves a spot to play, but now I'm sure Alo is feeding all the information to the other two members of SDK, and they could potentially just kind of pull up where Alo is, try to take the fight with Young Kings, and then essentially play for second. Gascans has such a strong position in this current circle that unless it's a massive shift, I mean, I don't see how Gascans lose this game.
Yeah, I mean, they'd have to run out of ammo for me to start getting really worried about not winning this one. I mean, yeah, we can't write shoot to kill out, right? Well, now we can, mate. Luke 12. Luke 12 going to go down.
Clearly, the team was just Luke 12. I mean, Alo and Penta still two really strong members, but yeah, positioning.
Has Penta got a vehicle, though? Yeah, he can't get away from the shack.
Not really. Yeah, I think the only vehicle he's going to ride is the one back to the lobby because he's not.
And the circle shift towards a compound.
I mean, if there was ever a player, Penta, make me proud, this would be the time. I think he's just going to first aid this out and just delay the inevitable. Wait, Young Kings! And 1 FPS!
The door was left open here.
Yeah, this is...
Again, everybody from Gascan. Yeah, Gascan's hyper-focused on SDK. The Young Kings capitalized on that, and Penta got out of the shack as well.
All of a sudden, this game just got a hell of a lot more interesting. Especially if they can get a knock on Adam here.
Yeah, I'm not sure why Adam's the only one really aggressing onto this. Now, Nikos and Honey Badger are going to come across, but they need to deal with this quickly. You see Oldler still sending shots out towards SDK. Penta...
There's no way
the old duck and dive. How? How is he alive, man? Thank you.
But that bought Alo time.
And they're going to knock him to gas. Honey Badger's down.
I think we caster curse this, and I'm okay with that. Gascans look like they absolutely were going to run away with this game, but all of a sudden, Young Kings is going to make a play. And now it's just down to Alo in a 1v3. Winnable. Very winnable.
Yeah, Nico's got to hit the first aid kit here, but...
Do you think he goes for Penta?
That would be some res.
Okay, now what can he do there?
I'd say, luckily, Adam actually came back across. When Nico was first aiding there was an opportunity for Alo to, I guess, take a clean 1v1 with Oldless, but Adam kind of wise to it, stacks up. I think Alo just looking for a cheeky way on top of the roof, maybe find a really, really dirty off angle, but I think he can manage it just by the head.
They got to be careful, though. Gascans has to be careful. They need to play for trades. It is a 3-on-1. If they carelessly give Alo a bunch of 1v1s, I can promise you he will most certainly win those. Molly to delay. And he's playing this well. I mean, he's trying to get different angles. He's showing them different things. The Molly's utility.
Actually, that Molly did a lot of damage to Oldest. You can see he's had to stick a first aid in the corner here.
Especially if he can get a good grenade off here. Get some damage, which he did.
Problem is he hasn't got a window or anything to peek on this side that's like relatively safe for him. He's going to actually try and get back onto the roof of the back onto the roof of the shack.
And this is where things start to get a little interesting, especially if Alo can just find one knock here. Good little setup here by Gascans, but again, prone to 1v1 angles. I mean, they're not necessarily playing for trades here. They're just playing for contact.
Tries to wait this out. Nico's got a really nice spot here, but he actually shows himself now. I think Alo's going to try and find the closest of the picks here, but keep your eye on the inside. Oldless is creeping. He's on the second floor now as well. There you go. The whole time it was a distraction. Gascan's going to close that one out. Again, you got to say it, right? They made use of that early split and ultimately punishing Spicy Fish, the ones that were contesting that territory early on, Godspeed. And I mean, it played it perfectly from there on out. Yes, they got the circle, but they were remaining active. Even when they were coming out south to try and third party that fight with SDK and Zenith, I liked what I was seeing there.
Well, we also talk about it all the time. You have to win the games that are given to you. And obviously, even though they got many circles, they also fought for that early against Spicy Fish, who had that split, and they held it off. I mean, they put a lot of damage out there on the field, and because of that, they were able to kind of shoo everyone away towards Zenith, who was also doing their own hurting, and because of that, they had a good game. It got a little sketchy in the end, especially with the crash from Young Kings, but overall, yeah, Gascans playing that really well and able to take out Alo.
Yeah, and I mean, SDK, a decent milli-circle. Color me surprised, right? Again, making it all the way down to the south side on the ferry, but points-wise, I mean, it paid off for them. This was the early engagement I was talking about, right? Gascan's identifying the potential of somebody trying to kind of ego split that very early on, and Spicy Fish get punished for it.
Not only that, but it still blows my mind that... It still blows my mind.
Such a smart rotation, man. Look at this.
Yeah, this was amazing, but the fact that we saw the boat twice in 2 separate rotations, I think what was really crazy. Once now with Zenith, as well as when STK had decided to take that all the way. But Sonics as well, I mean, they got here early to planes. They put some damage on a lot of teams. Unfortunately, they did have to fight 2 separate teams just south of that position on the road, and Shinboy with a beautiful knock did a lot of work this game.
Yeah, this was, I guess, the first kind of step for this knock-on effect we saw on the east. We were just talking about, right? They wanted to get active at this point here to clear this edge. As soon as phase 3 posted, it gave them a really good opportunity to clear everybody coming in from the east. I mean, we're talking about Oath, Durrani, 22, right? All these teams taking casualties. This was Sonic's ultimately kind of defending the first crash. One team gets wiped out, and actually his Young Knights then pull up on them as well, because I think they assume it's free, right? H-Win, I think, gets knocked from distance. And that's what left Zampa in this kind of 1v3 situation.
I mean, that was a really wild fight because InCheck got deleted seconds. I mean, we didn't even get to see the fight with InCheck because they pulled up on that Sonic's location beforehand. And one and the rest of Young Kings came along. But I mean, this east side was also a just absolute mess. And that was really because of Zenith. Zenith dictated everyone's rotation going up on the east side and ultimately drove everyone to the middle, where they just kind of got picked apart by everyone at distance.
Penta shooting blanks there. It looked like he shot him like 9 times there in the open. What was going on there? But definitely not shooting blanks this time around. He found Vegas out of the vehicle as well. Unfortunately stolen away, but again, shoot to kill, got themselves into a position where they're able to make it to the late game. Ultimately get a second place as well after Alo's efforts.
And even still, Spicy Fish was in this situation, and yeah, they had an early split, and that did kind of cost them here when gas cans crashed, but I still love the fact that they're playing for these splits. Also, Young Kings with an amazing decision to crash, especially when all that focus from Guadalajara gas cans was on SDK. They were able to make something work there, and they at least went for it. I really like the fact that Young Kings, you know, they have this very aggressive kind of spunky playstyle, and it's fun to watch.
Is indeed is the overall leaderboard. You see, actually, 3 teams kind of breaking the double digits with the way that one played out. A decent stack through 4th to 8th as well. You can see Sonic's in Rage tied with 5 points, but Gascan's running away with that one. 11 kills in total, and 21 overall. But again, SDK double digits, man, in what you could say isn't a comfortable SDK game. They come away and they're posting way above the average of some of these other top performing teams.
Well, I think you said it best. We can't really give SDK that milli base excuse anymore.
I don't want to hear it anymore.
Clear.
I don't want to hear it anymore.
It's very clear that they've adapted to the milli base circles, and not only that, but they're able to play them well. I mean, that rotation was a little funky and it was a little funny, but overall they made it work. And ultimately, I think that was a really good first game. Oath, a little bit, I was looking to them to get a little more points, especially that they got a late rotation over there on the east side. But inevitably, they're still in the fight, especially for the top 4, and we'll have to see. But first game is done, Pac, as you know. And on top of that, we have 3 more games, 1 wrangle out of the way, 1 more to go. But we are going to take a quick break, guys. Please don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more PUBG action. Not yet. Not yet.
Maybe not.
Pac, what are your final thoughts, actually, on that last game?
My final thoughts are, well, really, how many more military circles are we going to get? I mean, it's me and you. We're cursed. We already know that. Actually, previously it was the Poro and Hypod cursed, but you've now inherited it, obviously.
I've taken it over. I would be interested to see, though, if it was another game on military base, if SDK would actually decide to stay on South Georgia a little more. Maybe they rotate a little sooner.
It's the ferry in the playbook, man.
Yeah, is that actually something that's going to be in the playbook? I'm not really sure, but I think now we are finally time to take that break. I apologize, guys. We'll be right back.
Maybe.
Nope, we're not ready to take that break.
No, we're
not. Man, so let's talk about SDK and what that means if they actually do win this event, because I do want to kind of harp on that once again. If they win this event, are they going to fall into the kind of the pitfall where they, I don't know, they do really well at one event. Obviously, we're a little disappointing at PGIS. Is this the trend for them now?
I'm not sure. I mean, obviously, STK's compass is reset, so obviously the stack of PGC points awarded through the top 4 here. But I mean, you come out, you start strong like this, and I think STK look best when they're able to coast, right? And they don't have kind of this leaderboard pressure and all these other things that are just a part and parcel with competing. But when STK coasts and they're comfortable and they can play confidently, it's that fast and loose play style we see from them, where I think they really, really excel.
Okay, well, fair enough. I promise we're actually ready finally for that break. I apologize, guys.
I don't believe you.
I would be, I wouldn't be surprised. But guys, we'll be right back. Thank you so much for waiting and being patient with us. Stay tuned.
I'm Facundo. My gamer tag is Capitan. I live in Argentina, and I play with Durani Esports.
Meu nome é Gustavo Dias, sou do Brasil. Meu nome no jogo, meu nickname é Guben11 e eu tô jogando atualmente pela Enrage Gaming.
Meu nome é Gabriel, meu nickname no jogo é Faísca. Eu sou do Rio de Janeiro, Brasil. Eu jogo pela 303.
My game tag is Tiplands. I'm from Gravataí, Brasil.
Meu nome é Alan Maia, meu nickname é Trisk, sou de Montes Claros, Minas Gerais. Acredito que nossa maior força como equipe é a gente sabe jogar em equipe, todo mundo junto, todo mundo se ajuda, e quando um erra, a gente sabe trabalhar em cima disso para todo mundo melhorar em equipe.
O nosso ponto positivo em equipe, eu acredito que é a team play. Nós somos bem compactos, 4 jogadores sempre um pelo outro, sem dar margem de erro. Mas às vezes a gente peca em algumas coisas, assim, como o macro, né, de maneira geral.
Creo que la fortaleza de nuestro equipo es la facilidad que tenemos para resolver situaciones contra otros equipos. Creo que tenemos una muy buena mira para pelearla cualquiera. Y también nuestra fase de rotaciones son bastante buenas.
A primeira coisa que eu vou fazer certamente vai ser comprar uma placa de vídeo, porque eu tenho uma 1060 e ela já tá nos últimos dias dela. Mas o restante do dinheiro eu procuraria guardar um pouco e até mesmo investir ele.
If we win the tournament, I believe I'm going to upgrade my computer and probably get a tattoo.
Eu irei guardar e utilizar em planos futuros.
Trying to send it on a spicy fish sharp shot. What a grenade. And that is it for Shrimsy. What a hold. Halo creeping around on the street side. They are not expecting this flank. He spots the head. He spots Shimboy. He's down.
Welcome back to the ESL PUBG Masters Americas. My name's Toffees, and one game is now in the books. The gas cans have come out on top, and I will now be joined by not only Clover and Cameron, but the Honey Badger, who I think it's fair to say does give a care about how things go. 2 wins, 2 chickens for you guys, but a performance that I'm sure you're not happy with. So talk to me about that juxtaposition of probably some frustration, but also, hey, that ties you for like 2nd place theoretically with some good chicken wins.
Holy, I mean, that's a loaded question. Yeah, I mean, it's been a tough tournament for us, but you know, we're all really motivated and positive guys. So bouncing back is not something I have any doubt with. But the circles that game, they were favorable. With that, I mean, that win right there was just a lot of circle fed. I mean, let's face it. But I mean, I had fun.
You say circle favor, I say 11 kills, so a little bit each way. Clover?
From that compound, it's really easy.
Let's double back on that game, right? You talk about circle favor. This is not the first military Erangel game. We've actually had quite a lot for this event. Many have not gone y'all's way. When that circle changed, what was it like? What were the ideas? Were y'all just making sure that you stayed in the compound? Were you looking for kills, or were you just trying to play it safe?
That's a really good question. To be honest, I was really pushing us to try and be proactive and not like lose the game that we were given, you know what I mean? Trying to do too much maybe, and my teammates were like, listen, Badger, we're in the compound, we're chilling, just as long as we keep 4 alive, we'll be good. So I mean, that game I was antsy, but I mean, you know, what can you do when you're sat in the compound for 30 minutes?
That's actually kind of funny considering weren't you the guy taken out by the Young Kings crash?
Yeah.
That's not, I'm not even trying to read you, that's just the thought that entered my head.
Exactly
I actually did want to talk real quick. Yeah. Listen, there was a lesson to be learned there, but I did want to talk real quick about sort of the progression over the course of this tournament. This isn't the first time that we've seen you, that we've interviewed you. This is your 2nd win, and even though that win came after a series of very unfortunate games, after the break of the week, yesterday didn't start off great, but you had 2 third places in a row, and then this, of course, win with 1st place. The last time we talked to you, you mentioned this whole, I mean, I brought up the analogy of the pendulum, but this whole swing back and forth of really trying to get back into the pocket, really trying to get back into the style that made it so successful. Do you feel that this is only going to be a continuation of that, or do you still feel a little unsure and uncomfortable with where exactly your current momentum sits at?
I think we're all trying to still feel it out. You know, one good game doesn't change a bad tournament. For the most part, I think we're just needing to slow down without giving away too much strategy. I don't know if that like fast, reckless playstyle really holds much weight. And we're trying to be a lot more slow and methodical with how we play.
Okay.
So yeah, we're just slowing down a little bit. I think we'll just see a slower version of our team.
Interesting. All right. Good question. And I'm curious to see how you guys evolve. I will also ask you this. In an effort to get better as a player, because let's be honest, I'm not great, I noticed with our stat man that you are 21% of your shots are headshots. You open, it seems like, with headshots. So is that because you use the DMR a lot, or do you open your sprays trying to get that first hit on the head?
I mean, I wasn't actually aware of that stat. I mean, that's pretty cool. But for the most part, headshots obviously deal the largest amount of damage. So if you're able to open up whatever it is, be it DMR or area, with a headshot, you'll have a much higher percentage chance of winning the fight. So I think anybody should be aiming to try and hit the head. Now, when the gun starts bouncing around a little bit, most people like aiming for the body. But yeah, I mean, headshots are the way to go. It's definitely really important.
Maybe take it home. It's all I like advice for people. All right, any shout outs you want to give before we send you back in to get ready for game number 2?
No, just to my fans, to the fans of the team, and just Snooper, our new coach, is really he's pulling through for us. He's keeping us very motivated and positive, and just my teammates. Going from last place to climbing the leaderboard, regardless of where we end up, it's hard to stay as happy and as joyful as my teammates have. So I'm really happy for that.
Awesome. Glad to hear from you, and hopefully we see you here again. 7 more games. Let's see what you got.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
No problem. All right, we'll get back to talking. We'll see if they have enough gas in their tanks to push through the last 7 games. Should be interesting to watch. I mean, 2 wins. That's pretty respectable, Clover.
Yeah, I definitely can see, as they said, they've been slowing down their game, kind of trying to change how they're playing in the long term. And, from last place to now, I think right there in the middle, around 9th place. And they've kind of get themselves in a position where they could start to chase a little bit for some of those teams out in the top 5. So we'll see. You said 7 more games.
you mentioned the teams in the top 5. Let's take a look at who is in the top 5. We know STK is in first. Who is closing the gap? Cameron, STK broke 200.
Closing the gap's only gotten wider, Toffees.
Right?
I mean, I guess Gas Cans and Young Kings got closer towards like the top area, but as far as the players and the teams that are trying to actually contest Durrani and Sonics, neither of them had a great game. This is I honestly don't even know what to say anymore. We're talking about another game 1 Erangel on military base. We're talking about STK who loots South Georgia Pole continuously, doing well. It's I got nothing. This whole situation is ridiculous. The ferry, we can talk about that all we want.
We will. Let's take a side by side though. Guadalajara Gas Cans the win from that last one, Clover, and the Young Kings up and coming, looking pretty similar.
Yeah, I mean, both of them feasting on chicken dinners. You can see that damage, 12K to 15K for both teams. Guadalajara Gas Cans finally taking that leap, 91 points. This is a good change to see for them this week compared to their play last week. But I think that these are the two teams that we've continually talked about struggling in the middle. And so I want to see them break through that. This could be the time to happen. But, you know, kill leaders in the previous match, Oldless is up there. But look at this, Alo, Unciv, Shinboy, some of the teams that we were kind of looking for a bit of growth this game, struggling just a bit otherwise.
Yeah, it's nice to see Halo and Uncivil next to each other. It's just weird for me to see the logos different, Cameron. I'm still not used to it.
Yeah.
Well, Shinboy up on top, 1,000 damage there. Oldest right behind. But for me, the funny thing about that, Cam, was the ferry. STK took a risk ferry, and it somehow worked out. The Circle Gods gave it to him.
Yeah, and Hybok and Godspeed mentioned it on the cast as well. When STK, when that ferry reached the port at the south side of the military island, 300, who were the team on the cliffs to the west side, who were the biggest threat to them, actually got bombed by 303. So we didn't see that exactly play out. We don't know exactly how that interaction went, but needless to say, there was at least a little bit of a distraction there, only giving STK even more safety to then really start to try and take over. They only got 5 kills, but still a second place with 5 kills coming from South Georgia Pole on a military island. That's more than you would ever expect.
I was cracking up because it's like the tournament wants them to win. I actually messaged Gunner after the match and was like, never complain about circles again. You guys got the ferry and there was a crate waiting for you when you arrived. And his response was, I can't see the circles because they just sit in Discord together, but I can't, like, they're just laughing. Like, they won't stop laughing. And to me, that just sums up the craziness. Any last thoughts before we get into the next match, Clover?
I mean, you know, you talked about teams that could do good. At this point, shoot to kill. Even on a circle that wasn't in their favor, they still found a way into the final fight. And so I'm looking to them this match.
Nice. Well, guys, it is time for match number 2, our last wrangle for the day. Let's go now to the true God squad of PUBG casting. It is Godspeed and Hypoc.
Thank you again, Toffees. We are here ready for game number 2 today of our 4-game series, as we just witnessed Shoot to Kill further their point lead against everyone else. But more importantly, we saw some life coming out of the Gas Cans.
Yeah, we did. I mean, we talked about it leading into that game as well. Obviously, yesterday trending upwards a little bit and ending very strong yesterday with 2 third-place finishes, a decent kill count to boot. But again, just coming back to the early game, the fact that they're able to kind of, I'll be honest, take some risks on the fact that is a split so early on and get themselves into that position. I know Honey Badger in the interview said, yeah, it's easy when you get a compound like that, but, you know, compound curse exists. You know, it's still putting up that kill count. Really impressive to see.
And I'll tell you what, I'd rather have that curse than not have that curse. You know, compound curse is a team.
It's a nice curse to have.
I don't even know if I'd call it a curse at this point. But yeah, if you're gonna be able to hold the compound, you might as well get as many kills as possible. That's exactly what Gas Cans did. And another team that I kind of want to talk about was Durrani. They struggled a little bit on the east side, but they're still getting very aggressive and showing more than enough signs of life from yesterday that they showed us in these games. And ultimately, Erangel has been their best map. I think Erangel's kind of been the best map for a lot of these LATAM teams, and at the very least with this plane, we really shouldn't see too much in the way of variance from drops, because most of these guys should be able to go where they want to go.
We've got another fairly straightforward plane, but pretty far down to the south, so really, I mean, teams like STK getting themselves up to South Georgia are going to be fairly late. I'm seeing actually if they do decide to hop out early. Nope, they are going to hop out now. coming along. But everybody else, actually a few stretches here centered up towards Rozhok. I'm hoping there's not going to be too much of an overlap for vehicles, or maybe people are going to pull early, but it looks like they're able to spread pretty easily. Zenith actually on a wide split here for this.
Yeah.
This looting phase, to be honest. Vegas all solo over a prison. Shimboy's got Lipovka to himself.
This reminds me of a little bit of the EU split from back in the day. Vegas was on that team. This is definitely what they like to loot. I mean, we used to see them at prison. We also saw them at shelter, as well as, like solo lip. The other interesting thing as well for me is Oath, the fact that they got to drop immediately out of the plane into the Milton Power where they like to loot. And because of that, they should actually get a really good rotation early, depending on where this circle is going to go, which is not too bad for them. It has posted.
Indeed, yes. Lots of space in that circle, considering how far south the plane was. Whether or not anybody's going to bypass their looting phase, or at least cut it short a little bit in favor of positioning. But Old Time's actually going to head up towards Yasnaya. And actually, 303 going to get themselves a decent spread along the west side as well. 22 Esports behind them at School and Apps. But really, I mean, Zenith and Old Times have first dibs on anything should they want to dive it and get some positioning early on.
Yeah, and Old Time's definitely one of the teams that need it. I'm looking at their kills right now on Erangel. Total kills for the matches so far is 12 out of all the games. So they've definitely struggled quite a bit on Erangel. And even, I mean, looking at Miramar, it seems like they actually, So much better team on Miramar. Now they have the circle. I want to see Old Times do something with it.
He's on board with the gas cans. Is obviously down on Sosnovka. A long way to go. And actually, the Eastern Bridge, you got Spicy Fish, Dodge over to the west of them, and Oath round to the east as well. And then just north of that, you got that Zenith split. So, actually, I didn't even spot Durani as well over on the south side of the bridge. So they have to make the cross.
Yeah.
Also, this is the sort of setup, really, where you hate being the military team, especially if there's two of you.
Well, that's the issue with military, is you either hate it when you're on it and the circle's not there, or you hate it when the circle's there and you're not on it. It's kind of like this never-ending cycle of hatred. I mean, everyone knows sometimes rotating off military base can be a pain, especially if you have a team like Spicy Fish set up for a camp, which I'm not really necessarily convinced that they're going to do that. But even just on the west side, I mean, you look at 300 all across the West Bridge as well for gas cans. Luckily, with the circle, a lot of those teams are probably going to rotate early. But wait a second. Civ and Roth, I believe, have spotted Maluk, who loves to take his vehicles down into the shelter, but he's actually coming back up. And he's gone.
Wait, did Maluk spot him?
No, I think Maluk was actually just finished looting.
Okay. I thought maybe Maluk had spotted Roth on his way down the hill behind Uncivil. Roth trying to cut the engine, and we catch an audio cue of exactly where Maluk's gone, but he's he's making a run for it now. Looking like he's going to head up towards Punich. Actually, the other half of Zenith, a little further northeast to here, just passing Mansion now. There's one member of Old Times up there. So he's sending some shots. It's Vegas and Shimboy. Going to get themselves Glasshouse just over to the north of Mansion, but this is interesting now because effectively Zenith's 2-2 split.
Yeah.
Is cut right down the middle by Old Times.
Yeah. And so if consolidation needs to happen, I mean, it's going to be a little rough. You can only imagine that shots are going to be coming out from Old Times. And not only that, but Spicy Fish as well, starting to make their rotation in. And you have to imagine Oath is probably going to skirt up that East Coast, but they as well may take position. I feel like Oath tends to
Sorry, did you just say
north.
Skirt? Like skirt?
Yeah, like skirt.
That,
it's kind of skirt, you know what I mean? Towards the east side on the roads. I'm just saying, I mean, I've seen some of the driving from Oath. Skirt is definitely appropriate for the way we've seen them do it. But as well, 300 rotating in now. And 300 has been one of the teams where I feel like their macro, to me at the very least, Pac, has been very impressive in the way that they approach the circles.
It has, yeah. I mean, I was talking about this yesterday on the desk of Vox, I guess, bringing that pedigree from his previous team, because they're extremely explosive, right? But it's in positions in those kind of power positions mid-game where, yes, you could play it passively, maybe ride a circle or two out, but actually, you know, happy to kind of sacrifice the queen almost to pick up 5 or 6 kill points along the way. And it's that sort of thing that's just amazing to watch.
Yep, very proactive. And I think that ultimately that's what's led to 300 success, honestly, over the course of this one, as well as Oath. I mean, Oath is not only proactive, they're very aggressive. Sometimes that gets them in trouble, but at the same time, it also nabs them a lot of kills, as we see Huyn is actually going to find the first kill onto Hazetan from 22 Esports, and that is going to give them the compound.
Yeah. Hacker compound on a platter. There's the rest of 22 Esports going to head north. I guess just heading, yeah, Alamo and Volcano sort of area. But again, seeing that in the kill feed now, going to have to play fairly cautiously. SDK, again, early on. I guess. This to me looks like hunting, right? And it is. When you trail a team in rotation like this, you just want them to know you're there.
You don't necessarily even need to do
you don't even need to shoot at them or anything. It's just like, hey, we see you. We see where you're rotating. We see this circle. We know what your plan is. And there's things like that that are just terrifying. It makes you second guess every decision, every tiny decision early on in the game. And the psychological warfare aspect that SDK brought. It was ATC last year, right?
It was. Yeah, it was actually ATC. That's correct. And that, I mean, that's kind of the unfortunate strike, I guess, Enrage kind of drew when they decided that they were going to rotate in and around, you know, SDK and South Georgia, simply because, yeah, that we talked about it last game. That is a team that is absolutely going to enforce their will on you, whether that's through rotations or bullying. And that's another knock picked up, looks like, by Sonics over at Camper. Well. Yeah.
Vox, actually, I guess maybe on the rooftop, but certainly the anchor position for 300 here, looking down. Neff and head kick just over towards, I guess, the new compound, just slightly east of here.
Well, the other thing to note as well is this early damage and these knocks, they may kind of seem insignificant, especially early game, because, you know, you're going to be able to pick that up.
I'm so glad we switched to this, because I was about to say SDK have literally trailed the rotation from Cube, basically from South George, right? And look at where they are now. They are literally chasing them.
They are, yeah, that's crazy. They're actually hurting Enrage right now. Luke is going to pull off, but as you can see in the distance there, Alo's still taking shots, and they are absolutely harassing Enrage right now.
But it's things like this, is like, again, leaderboard-wise, it doesn't matter. But to SDK, when they're in this coast mode, it's all about, okay, we're gonna play the long game, right? We're gonna do the easy work on a game like this, where we can harass this team early on, just make them second guess every single time they drop out of the plane. Not to come close.
Well, I think that, yeah, that's absolutely dangerous as well, when SDK is also playing with just utter confidence, right? They know they have a massive lead. They know they can mess with a team like Enrage, and they can do it with pretty much absolute immunity, right? There's not, even if they get wiped
early,
no
downside to them.
There's no downside, exactly. Even if they get wiped early, whatever, we're 77 points above second place. We'll do it again next game, you know? And that to me is terrifying. I would not want to play against an SDK that has that much room for error. And they really don't make that much error as well. It seems like we're kind of, this event's kind of been the SDK show, but they've earned it. They've played really out of control well.
God, I wish casters would stop talking about SDK.
It's unreal, yeah.
It's driving me insane.
It's okay. The first chance I get, you watch.
If the desk mentioned them, I'm honestly going to be livid.
I'll probably just be done. Sonics fighting themselves in Alamo. Again, 22 Esports was in this position. They rotated off. And Young Kings as well, making their rotation just around Death Road here. Gascans is actually still waiting on the other side of this. They could run into them.
Yeah, this is weird as well, because 303 did reposition from where we saw Vox get knocked earlier as well. Kind of split to the north of this as well. So, well within, I guess, earshot of this area. But actually over to the west, got another team rotating in behind Young Kings as well. Actually, yeah, look at Coffee. He's out of the vehicle now. Spotted this positioning coming out. It's Sparking going to put him down straight away, though.
That was very bold to just get out of the car like that. I mean, I believe he probably had to, otherwise he's going to get knocked. More grenades coming out, and Akrashe finally showing signs of life, putting a lot of damage, but a knock in return from KF9.
You're not going to be able to get Coffee back, and one downed as well. And Hugan and KF9 both tagged up right now, so got to get a firm grip of this fight if they want to be able to get this res off. Sparking looks like he wants to play this fairly aggressively as well. He wants to prevent this res from coming through.
I mean, it's a good move.
That molly.
They have the advantage right now. Oh, just over. Okay, if not going to take damage, though, trying to cross over to N1. He really doesn't have time for a res here, especially with how aggressive Sparking has made this fight. but they're maintaining. They're actually starting to slow things down, Pac.
But yeah, look at it now. It's worth nothing. With that circle shifting over, I want to see somebody pull away from this. This is just a pointless fight now. As elsewhere, it is an absolute fiesta in the center of the circle, Dustin. About 7 teams have just made a mad dash. Look at the kill feed right now.
And Dodge just actually got deleted. Straight deletos, why we were talking about that fight between Young Kings and Akreshe. And they're pulling off. And this, you're absolutely right, Pac. This is what one of these teams need to do. There's no reason to have this fight on death road right now. And there's so far outside the circle and outside good rotations. Akreshe, though, still putting on the pressure. And it's just and one, I believe, at this point.
It is indeed. He's gonna get hunted out of this smoke right now. That's gonna swing around the outside, does a lot of damage, but doesn't manage to get a flush. And unfortunately, looks like Mouse one is stuck. Yeah. Unfortunately, I hate it when that happens.
It's a bug. It happens sometimes. No big deal. Moving on to Sonics versus Spicy Fish now in this interesting little mansion split we have going on.
Look how many teams
the 2-story on the other side.
Whilst we're looking at that, look how many teams just made a mad dash as soon as this posted. I mean, Zenith, old times to an extent, were the only 2 in this area, right? Oath lurking over towards the east, but looking now, SDK, old times 300, Sonics, Spicy Fish, 22, Gas Cans, all made it over here so quickly that there's nothing to rotate into if this centers again.
No, and a lot of these teams are going to have to be actually very careful on this shift as well because as you know, old center is probably the worst place to be on a rotation, especially if it's going to be a hard shift. We'll see that as the case in check. Meanwhile, trying to find just something in these games. I mean, it has been a struggle. The last game, we didn't even get to see them. Finally, you see at the very least they have 1 knock to see what they can do off of that. And that was a very, in my opinion, greedy split coming out from in check. They had members all over the place.
Yeah, and not an awful lot gained by having somebody there, right? It's not defendable from the other side of this, but and you can see actually they're taking a lot of pressure from Enrage, a team that's already kind of been through it themselves, rotating in alongside STK. But
yeah, at this point, this is a break for them. The fact that they finally got in the circle. The problem
they
is
got a chance to catch their breath.
Selfish actually going to find Gubin. Okay, as we move over to shoot to kill now. Also in a very good position for themselves. They've managed to make it, and there's the shift. They managed to make it actually dead center off of their late rotation, which is something that SDK finds quite often.
Okay. Somebody's had their Weetabix today. Oh, yeah.
Wow, Publix.
Okay. Lands the second as well. Psycho will fall too quick.
He heard me.
Knocks there that were kind of dirty, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, he had to have heard me when I was calling out in check. We did interview Selfish. Actually, I'm a huge Selfish fan. I love their attitude. But yeah, it's been a struggle. This is a good way, though, to kind of start this game. If they can somewhat finish out Enrage, they actually have quite a bit of room to work with, especially with this new shift. In fact, they would pretty much have all of East Yas to deal with by themselves.
It would, yeah, and a good opportunity to kind of secure the center of this circle, which is the, I guess the ridge just down to the southwest of where the checkpoint is on the road. Control that very easily from the police station and the gallery. Publix actually going to get the confirm through there, and yeah, the last one of Enrage will fall. So in check, actually,
well done.
After giving up the first knock and ultimately with that split looking like it was going to be their demise, they stabilize and keep 3 and put some kill points up.
It's got to be frustrating for Enrage, right? I mean, they just had to deal with with SDK as they were trying to rotate in through the north and
dealing with that for the first 9 minutes. Then you pull up and Pavlex is hitting shots like that. It's yeah.
Sometimes it just be like that. You know what I mean? Sometimes it just be. But as we see gas cans, okay, so now the situation for them is they do have the north open to them. They potentially could scat out the 1 member of Oath, which I believe is Relo, sitting there in that pocket compound. Or they could just actually go back. But it looks like they're actually splitting here. 2 to the north and 2 to the east. And just as that, I believe Relo is actually consolidating as well. Nope. I lied. Relo is actually just sitting there doing damage. And what has happened to 300?
I don't know, but this is giving me anxiety. Just, I hate seeing a team set up on the underside of heaven like this. Especially, you can't do anything in the mid game. You literally can't.
I was just getting phase vibes from PGIS there as they
exactly,
sat there.
Dude, exactly.
try Shen. Can he hit a shot? That distance is a little difficult, but Akreshe also find themselves in a decent spot at the very least, down from the southwest there. They do have west. They do have at least 1 or 2 rotation options available to them. The 303 is going to be standing in the way of one of those options. However, unfortunately for 303, I mean, they've almost just been point fodder at this point for a lot of the teams in this lobby, and I don't say that very lightly, but it's just been the case where they have not been able to really win any of these team fights that they've been in.
Here is Circle just about closing in. We'll see what's there. Pulls again. And look at it. It's nobody in Yasnari. It's only
in check.
Yeah, it's only in check. And 303 down to the south. I mean, we're going to have another situation as we have with phase 2, which is a lot of teams going to make a mad dash for the city now. But I was surprised to see nobody even open to the thought that it could come back yet.
No, but STK actually, with fantastic presence of mind to take one of the better positions, this dip, although it can be dangerous, it's so good to hold, especially early game. A lot of teams are going to be rotating around, obviously Akreshe being one of them. They did thread that needle, and they are going to be able to get closer to Yaz. We'll see how that plays out for them.
There's still 5 teams that have got to come in from the southeast, man.
A lot of teams coming in. I really want 303, especially after my comment, to make something happen with this game, especially with these rotations. I hope they can get some kills strung together here. But meanwhile, it's actually going to be gas cans getting ripped apart by Durrani.
Honey Badger does respond, but you know, already lost 2 in this scenario, and Durani trying to, I guess, set up in this one story, but this isn't a comfortable position, right? This is just a play for Circle. It's we sit here, we try and survive. 300 finally now, trying to storm the castle, get up to this high ground. Still 4 strong, no kills on the board just yet, but I mean, if they can get past Old Times, they've got to be careful of Letty on the north side of the compound, but actually, it's Luke 12 from distance.
Is he,
no way.
Excuse
no
me?
way. Tig's going to try and confirm that.
Excuse me?
Got it. Tig just confirmed it. No way.
This isn't a pub. Tig, you can't just do that. That's absolutely wild. Man. No, that's absolutely wild, because that actually helps Old Times now. In this push, they've immediately lost one. And oh my goodness, it's just all out mayhem. Sonics is going to be crashing into Yaz now, and this is what we expect from a lot of these teams. But Hwin is going to be found in this absolute chaos.
No way. Is that Molly still spreading?
No,
it's just stopped. Tig is burning out, and yeah, he will bleed as well. Selfish going to get kill credit for that one, but still got problems upstairs here as they try and get Hwin back on his feet.
Yeah, and Biznaga could potentially just, I mean, these buildings are really awful to hold in, especially when you're all stuck on the bottom level. So Biznaga could make a lot happen here. The problem for him is I believe he's all alone in that building. It's just him.
You got Akreshe as well, just foaming at the mouth for somebody to peek a window here. Again, really difficult. I mean, a similar situation to Durani, to be honest. Now they're just in a position where it's like, well, we've got to survive. We don't have a feasible option to push out of this ground floor. There's still so much of the city unoccupied.
There's still so much of the circle unoccupied, to be honest. There's still that fight happening down in the southwest, or excuse me, the southeast between, it looks like 300 is still there at Old Times. Yeah, and that shift is actually going to push everybody that was trying to play terrain out, which means that this is going to be, police building is center. This is going to be really disgusting for a lot of these teams.
You said it wasn't a pub game. It's looking like a pub game circle here, to be honest with you.
That's unreal. And Biznaga's actually going to survive. He makes it out. Good use of the smokes. I mean, he's not out of it yet. Obviously, Sonics is probably going to come knocking and try to cross soon. But this fight between Old Times and 300 really needs to come to a conclusion. And that knock on head kick might start.
It's heartbreaking for 300, man. That nade actually potentially going to do a bit of damage. But actually, no. It's just later. And Vox now is XX going to get that confirmation of the kill. Vox will respond with a knock onto XX, but oh, can he thread the needle out the window here? That's done a lot of damage. That's going to find the knock.
Beautiful shot coming out. Vox, last one alive against 2. Old Times, though, not necessarily the most healthy
if he identifies the res on the left side there.
Get the knock. Can he switch? He knows. He knows one more is in the smoke.
Let's try and confirm the kill points. Actually, here's the step. Look at that. Vox will close it out. Old times will fall. 300 taking massive casualties from the third party. Initially, the drive by a third party from Tiggleton, but SDK as well putting a lot of pressure onto them during that fight. And he will fall, but
his consolation was the entirety of 303 looking his way.
Oh, for sure, man. I mean, a Spartan effort nonetheless.
Yeah,
good stuff from Voxic.
Well, it's games like that as well that I feel like 300, even in their aggression or lack of aggression, they are able to manage to salvage those points by just taking out a team like that. So very well played, Vox. Nice try, man. At the end of the day, they got some points. Still in fourth. As we move on, Oath has actually been very quiet this game, not for lack of trying. They've just really not had many teams around them, especially with the rotation they took early after looting Melta Power. So they've just been kind of hanging out. They did lose Snakers, but they have a really disgusting angle onto SDK right now, but they have to be careful not to crest too high.
Yeah, Durani actually coming in with the tag. That was the team set up to the north side of Gallery, as we remember in that one story. No way Luke's actually going to get this close.
Oh, yeah.
The last thing you want to do is let any member of SDK get within throwable distance. But now, I mean, his teammates can take full contact. They can take first contact, and Luke 12 can just kind of spring this trap. And so he's got a teammate up behind him. Kurt is stacked up. He is going to open up the fight here. Does a lot of damage initially. Are they going to opt to leave Balefrost here? Yeah, he tries to hit the res. Alo gets kickstart out of the vehicle.
It's just Relo. 3 members of Oath down to just 1 in a blink of an eye. What a beautiful push by SDK. And that's it. They lose a flush, but I mean, still 3 members. I lied. 2 members. 2 members of FCK Zenith. We're absolutely not going to let that stand, as they're also still on the side. Actually, again, what is it with Zenith and just controlling the east side of these circles? I mean, this is the second time that they have herded all the teams away, and with this circle shift, actually, they are poised to be in one of the better positions.
No, you're absolutely right. It's a similar recipe to the previous game. It's worked out fantastically for them here. Sparking actually going to get that confirm onto Zampa upstairs with the nade. Even Sonic's down to 2. H1 and Shrimsy. Again, so difficult now with the circle adding another layer of pressure here. Everybody on the west side has to move. Akresh, obviously just Biznaga left on 22 Esports, but over to the north as well, you've got Adam and Honey Badger, and just north of them, Spicy Fish. Still lots of teams to try and make their way into this circle, and not a lot of options, to be honest. You're going to see Spicy Fish, I guess, make a mad dash for it, maybe pull up outside Durani.
I mean, realistically, this would be the play that could win them the game. It's risky, but there it is. This Roth is going to go flying in that buggy. Is he safe? No, he's going to get knocked. Other 2 members coming in, and a crush also making a mad dash for the police building. And I think they're actually going to make it.
No way.
Oh, Hwin got knocked with a grenade in his hand. That's going to be a flush. And Biznaga actually.
Yeah, spotted out.
So that is going to be it. 8 kills for Akresh. This is exactly what we wanted to see out of this team. Finally starting to show some signs of life, as they have 4 healthy members up in the circle, but they're not quite in just yet. 1 member does have a bit of a foothold there. I think it's actually 2 in the split. No, it's just Sparking. And SDK is making a dash in now.
The remnants, at least, as Penta will get quickly dealt with. Pablex once again, and yes, Alo falls too. So SDK out in 7th, but what, 6 kills I think they got on the board? I'm not entirely sure. We'll have to check it after the match, but a decent kill posting nonetheless. Not that they need it.
No. They definitely don't. But Zenith, a team that is still very much in the runnings.
Oh, he actually caught himself with the molly. How did that just happen?
Shrimsy
caught himself with a molly on the way in, yeah.
And he's still got Honey Badger on his backside here to worry about. And he knows something's up. He definitely heard Honey Badger. It's risky plays just alone. Even just a kill and a flush here would be great for him. Goes from me.
But Adam gets knocked. It's knocked down flush, and Honey Badger was inside the smoke there. That's a tilter. Shrimsy probably just got a jump scare. I thought, I was like, is Honey Badger not? Because the player icon's grey and he's inside the smoke and the health bar is white. So I was like, is he dead? Is he prone? Like...
Absolute jump scare. That happens in pro play sometimes too. I've definitely been surprised once or twice. But Akreshe doing a good job of finding themselves all the way at least up S4 in this police building. But ultimately, again, the circle is shifted and they are not in. They're going to have to go past into that mansion, which InCheck has been in and been holding quite successfully this entire game.
Yeah, they have. I mean, still keeping 3 up. We know they took one casualty very early on. I want to say around circle 2 or 3, or at least into circle 3 transition. Durrani, at the same time, another team that pulled up on a mad dash rotation, almost a desperation rotation. See, Selfish will open things up here. Pablex will respond as well. Kresh will trade one back. 9 kills already for them. They've had to... Again, this started on Death Road. This was the fight we were talking about way, way back.
With Young Kings, I believe it was as well.
Yeah.
So... Honey Badger's still alive, still able to find a way to snake his way in. 3 kills as well. I mean, these are...
I'm calling it now, man. Honey Badger's going to rat another team. He's going to get like another 2 or 3 kills. I'm calling it.
Okay. I mean, it's definitely possible, specifically with his location. Right now, he has a lot of cover to work with. He can pro. Nice shot. Selfish. Unbelievable. And Akresh finding themselves in a little bit of trouble. Smoke's going out. This is probably going to be their safest cross at this point. No utility, at least damage in the way of Selfish. He's going to try to take some shots. He's going to find 1 or 2, not enough. And now it's Sparking's turn. And they're going to make it across. At least for the time being, they're safe.
Yeah, I just want to point out Honey Badger did get a kill steal over on the west side of the car park there. Just saying.
Meanwhile, Zenith, I mean, it's just an absolute control. They've been sitting in that spot. We talked about it earlier, just
chilling.
So strong. I mean, yeah, they're just chilling. I mean, realistically, they don't need to do anything potentially off this next shift, but even then, they might still have something to play just on the north side of that hill that they're on. As this game is down.
What? Actually pulls down, I guess, slightly off southwest, but allows a crash and InCheck, and I guess Durrani to an extent to hold on to something close by to what they're already positioned to.
It does buy them a little bit of time. The issue is
well, that's the thing, is time, right? Because they're on the short side. Zenith are on the wide side of the circle here.
Oh, look at all this utility coming in. They're going for the kill. Pablex is gonna find it. That's it. Beautifully played.
So
very quick. Yep. Good use of utility, very quick to the point, and they were able to wipe out immediately Akreshe. But although Akresh goes out in 5th, I have to say they had an incredible game, especially with that early fight. We weren't sure if they were easy to make it out, as we stated early on Death Road, so well played to them. But now moving over to Zenith, they are going to have to move fairly soon here. They have utility. They still have a few vehicles as well to try to potentially make a fort or something in the center of that circle, or just hold out the rest of the teams, because nobody Pac is in the center of this one. Because there's nothing in the center of this one. It's actually just completely open.
No, really. I mean, it's InCheck with the best opportunity here, because they have the biggest slice of the circle in terms of the building they occupy. Zenith now in vehicles, trying to make a move, and actually timing this pretty well, because Durrani taking 2 knocks here, and Pablex going to finish off Honey Badger as well. No more ratting for him. 14 kills for InCheck now. Zenith on a mad dash, trying to get off onto the wall. They're actually getting pretty close by.
And all of a sudden, all this control that Zenith had, because of the shift, they've had to get incredibly aggressive. They will find Durrani, but at a cost of potentially 2 members. And that has opened the door wide open.
Shinboy's down on the wall. Pablex is nearby. I mean, you need to stop him from getting any closer, but the circle's still shifting. It's going to force Vegas out into the open as well.
Zenith is not out of it yet, though. I'm not sure how much utility InCheck still has left as far as lethal utility as well. So with enough smokes, Zenith could potentially get close enough. As we see, Luke still kind of holding that off angle. Nate is going to flush Shinboy. But now it's Luke's turn to move, and realistically, it would have to be Vegas to try to find some way to get him in, but I don't think that's going to happen. Knock.
Selfish.
And just like that, it is done. And in check, what a game. What a game. They needed that game as well.
Yeah, desperately. 17 kills. A huge performance from them. And again, off the back of, you could say some circle luck, but they fought for everything that they got into that, from the mid game to the late game. There were so many teams that tried to contest the area. Initially, Durrani coming in, a couple of the teams rotating into the west side. Obviously, the remnants of Crash and Sonics and whoever else was in the city. Absolutely well played. Pablex, I mean, landed some disgusting shots early on and getting himself up to 7 kills by himself. Really, really great stuff.
Pablex as well as Selfish. I mean, they both played that really well. And as you stated, they weren't even in that police building in Yas to begin with. They came in, they also had to fight, I believe it was Enrage actually. Remember, it was Enrage that had to come in after being chased down by SDK and their rotation kind of being ruined. They ran into in check with some incredible shots, as you said, coming out from Pablex as well as Selfish. And because of that, they were able to win. But, you know, we have to mention SDK again. They managed to get more points throughout this game. And on top of that, they had
6 kills,
Yeah, they had a beautiful push onto Oath before ultimately, you know, meeting their demise as that duo came in and crashed into the building that a crash eventually got to. But ultimately, what a game. What a game, Pac.
Yeah, really, really good one. And again, I was surprised to see so many teams not even consider the possibility of the Asnaya shift. We saw it coming into phase 3, I think, when it again pulled that direction. It was only in check there. Again, Circle 2 rotation was kind of wild. There's 5 or 6 teams made a mad dash all the way into Mansion. So that just shows the distance that circle pulled for the center to end where it was. But yeah, lots of teams, I guess, losing people in rotation, you know, down to maybe 2 or 3 members that just had to kind of settle for what they could get.
Yeah, I mean, we started with this fight. We talked about, you actually specifically said, I want to see one of these teams pull out because this fight just isn't worth it. And we saw Crash eventually do that after basically taking care of, you know, what was left of the Young Kings. And then moving forward, I mean, this circle was just shift after shift that was just going more and more towards Yaz. And you're right, none of the teams really expected it, which surprised me. And here's in check, just absolutely taking care of Enrage here. It was one of the first teams they had to.
It was, yeah, it was. Again, it's heartbreaking for them, man. Like I said, just being harassed for 6 minutes straight, effectively, in rotation. But again, here, another one is Durani and pulled up on by Gascans. Actually, there was a little bit of a split. Didn't even notice that at the time. Tiggleton.
This was disgusting.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, if you're going to go out in, well, they lost another 2 at the 2-story once they got in there. But Vox here, just putting absolute work in versus old times. I'm not sure actually how many kill credits he got for this. He gets the 1 here, and yeah, he did get all 3. Because I know SDK was sending shots over this direction as well. Would have been upsetting for him to lose out on those kill points.
It is, and who knows, maybe that fight would have been different had they had 300 not lost a member like that. But overall, yeah, it was also the Gascans Honey Badger really kind of saving this game for his team. As you said, he ratted out multiple teams, even got some kills for, I think maybe he even got 5 at a certain point before he went down. But this was also just, again, another beautiful push coming out from in check. I mean, this is kind of what I've at least been wanting to see ever since that interview with Selfish. I mean, team has a really good attitude, and it's very clear that they're working to improve. And I mean, this was just one of those games where it was pretty textbook.
For sure. I mean, I'll come out and say we need to see a few more of those. But this is an absolute statement to make. This is the potential, right? This is potentially the upside of this roster. So good to see. I mean, Zenith as well, posting 14 points. A great game from them. It's unfortunate, really, that was it, phase 6 or 7 pulled so far to the west that didn't really even give them a slice of the pie, so to say. They had to try and live through a couple of smokes.
As well, Zenith, though, I have to say the race from, it seems like 2nd to 5th is incredibly close. I mean, 122. A lot of these teams are actually getting tied. So although, yes, SDK is in the lead, I still think there's absolutely a battle happening. And honestly, it would be great if one of these Latin American teams could kind of sneak in. And that's kind of the next thing I wanted to ask you now that we're 2 games in, Pac, is we're combining the regions. Latin America, obviously, we've kind of had a history with this region before. Now that we're one region, what are your thoughts on it? And are you excited? Is there any team really you're looking forward to, or is it just the region melting pot that you kind of wanted to see?
Definitely. I mean, I made the comment yesterday that obviously both regions kind of suffer from being very top heavy. So this hopefully should kind of fluff out the, I guess, 5th to 10th placements. And actually, no, I'll go ahead and say there are a few teams that could potentially contest the top spots, but I don't think we've seen it just yet. And especially with a couple of high-profile roster changes. Obviously, I mean, a few names completely absent from this stage of the event that didn't even manage to qualify. So maybe a little further down the road, but those are the things I'm looking forward to.
Absolutely. Well, of course, if you're watching us, or however you're watching us, make sure you're also checking us out on the TikToks. We are there streaming all the esports action. That's going to be at PUBG, of course, at pubg.esports.official. Make sure you guys are checking us out there as well for plenty of content. But that's going to do it for us. Game 2 is in the books. I promise for real this time. We have 2 more games. We are going to go to a short break. So guys, stay with us. We'll be right back.
I'm John Lonnie. Let's get you leveled up. Gas is only for vehicles, right? Wrong! It's for holding and taking buildings, too. When a squad rolls up, set a trap to secure your position and light the wick to get rid of the intruders. Or if you're dealing with a stubborn rat, use it to easily burn them upon exit.
Welcome back to the ESL PUBG Masters Americas. 2 games in the books. And as we turn our eyes to the desert, we get a chance to sit down with a special guest. My name's Toffees. I'm joined by Clover, Cameron, and Selfish for the second time. Congratulations on the win. And I'm going to open with this question, Selfish. Both of your wins have been on Erangel. Why are you so good at that map?
I don't know, but this win is have the same feeling for the older. We just to sit and the zones close all of us and we got good shots. The best way to win in this game.
I respect your honesty, Clover.
Well, with that, you were the first to go to Yasnaya. The rest of your team stayed behind, and obviously the circle finished on Yasnaya. What was the like for your team to make that decision to pull everyone into the city, and were you comfortable playing from that position in Yasnaya?
We are really much comfortable to play in Yasnaya, me and IL97, Burros, because we drop in this city for too much time and we know all the region around the city. And when the second zone's closing, I talk with the guys. So guys, all the zones shift for long to us. Just gonna stay here and gonna bet in here, and if the zone's close for us, good. If the zone don't close for us, gonna see another spot and play the game.
All right, yeah. So I do want to sort of give, I want to get your perspective on this tournament so far for you. You have 2 wins under your belt. Good job securing both of those games. But a lot of your other games aren't nearly as successful. I'm wondering, from your perspective, what are the major hurdles that your team in Czech is having to jump over in order to have a good series of games here?
Sorry, this question is so difficult for me. Can you repeat that for more simple? Sorry.
No, it's fine. That's fine. It's a bit of a negative question, but I'm curious. What do you think is your team's sort of biggest problems? Because you have 2 wins, but also a lot of games that aren't quite as good. So I'm curious on your perspective.
I think the best problem for your team is really simple. The zones don't like to close for us, and this is I don't like this. I don't know what's happened this tournament. All the zones close shifts for long to us. All the games we need to follow the zone. The zone don't close for us, and when the zones close, we win the games. Definitely that.
The first time that we had you on here, you said something that I thought was very mature and very real, and it was that we have to get better, and to do that we have to play teams that are better. You guys, real talk, are on the bottom half of the leaderboard. Do you feel, after we've played for so many days, that you guys are feeling improved? Have you learned a lot? Are you prepared for sort of the next stage because of this?
Yeah, I think that. But I think at this time we need to stay better. We have too much games, and I think our stay is not in that. We need to stay more up in the table, and we have 6 games for that.
Awesome. Anything you want to say before we let you go? Whatever language you choose, if you want to speak to the viewers or your fans, please feel free to do so.
Ok, first em português. Pessoal, só agradecer a todo mundo que tá torcendo pela gente, que tá junto com a gente. Agradeço mesmo de coração por todo esse apoio. Vocês são demais. Felizmente a zona fechou pra gente uma vez e, bom, a gente conseguiu fazer bastante ponto. Isso foi muito legal. And now in English, if you guys, if you have people in here who support us and Thank you. You're insane, and we're trying. The zones don't like us, but we're gonna make that. Sorry, guys. My camera.
Sorry, the cat's cute. The cat is cute.
My team's calling me. What the fuck?
All right. Well, go talk to your team. Get ready for the next match. Thank you so much. That's what happens. We talk too long, and this sort of thing just is what it is. But I like the message. I like the positivity to which they seem to approach this, Clover. I mean, Selfish. Let's be honest, they're on the bottom half. In fact, let's pull it up right now. Let's look at the overall standings to give us a context. They're going to be on the bottom half of this thing, but they're still staying positive. They're taking away, they're learning as they go. That's a big deal to me.
I mean, the positivity is really the way to play. We even heard, we heard Honey Badger for the Gas Cans say something similar in his interview previously. And I think that mentality is what's going to keep these teams above water. We have seen some growth, but it's been struggle, as you heard in Czech say from Selfish. They haven't really been getting zoned. They've been having a lot of edge fighting play, and it's been quite a bit of a struggle for them. Like, take them compared to Zenith, who they were up against at the end that last game.
Yeah, you wanna take a look at the comparison there, Cameron?
Yeah, it's not too much of a surprise. The kills and damage are heavily favoring Zenith. Zenith have been performing relatively well with this tournament, getting into a lot of different end games and a lot of different fights. But I did want to touch real quick on Selfish's point about chasing circles. I feel like that is sort of the first go-to self-critique whenever you're having a bad performance. However, when you have a game that gives you 17 kills despite being in like 13th, 14th place before the game happened, that sort of leads me to think that there might be something going on there with that, because 17 kills is not easy to come by despite being in such a dominant position that they were this round.
I mean, look at that damage. It's absolutely ridiculous. You saw that 7 kills on one player alone, but then 5 and 5 is just an astronomical amount of kills. And yes, I get that where they were, let's be honest, Clover, the chances of taking, police station and embassy and like getting all of the circles there is like 200-300 to 1. But this many kills off of it, that's what's uncommon.
Yeah, they held that position. They held pushes from so many different teams. I mean, at one point we saw them finally take that engagement against Durrani up to the north, and both Durrani and Czech kind of stopped for a second. Zenith was like, cool, hey, they're preoccupied, let's push now. Both teams were like, wait, no, you can't come in. And we, once again, saw more kills come back out. So proactive playing for them, I think when in Czech is comfortable in that position is where we'll really see them flourish.
And we saw some great moments from a lot of teams. Cameron, Sonics, Tiggleton got a flush as he drove, kill and flush, which is wild. Any other teams that caught your eye in that last match?
Really good round from Akreche. 9 kills, 5th place, considering that they are the team that has probably been the most disappointing, considering expectations coming into this event with sparking a VHZ, most notably. This was definitely a good round for them.
Awesome. It was a good round. It was a good one for Durani. STK fell off a little bit, but at the end of the day, Clover, like, it's STK.
Still got 6 kills.
Yeah,
this is their worst game.
And, I want to give a quick shout out as well to Gas Cans. Managed to keep one up in the late game again. They're finding creative ways to get points, and it's something that they really need to grow a little bit on that leaderboard. But like you said, STK, that's the team we're all keeping an eye on right now.
Yeah, it was definitely fun watching the Gas Cans hide in the trash cans to get that kill on Sonics. Entertaining. But it's time for game number 3. Let's do it. Let's go to the Hypoc and Godspeed duo. It's time for the penultimate match.
I think, wow, Toffees for the first time didn't have some really, really intricate throw, and I feel sad because I'm not as hyped as I was. Damn.
First time I've ever seen Steve lost for words. That's crazy. That's a test. Clip it. Somebody, please.
Clip it and ship it. But look, we are headed to Miramar, and this has, as I said earlier, been notoriously one of the weaker maps for pretty much the entirety of the LATAM teams currently involved in the Americas region. So I'm curious to see if maybe some of those teams can kind of bring it back. Obviously, Akreche showing some signs of life. We also saw some really great play coming out of Selfish and his team in Czech. So we'll have to see, because Miramar has not been that great for LATAM.
No, I mean, we're talking about this towards the end of the last map, but I'm fine with a few of these LATAM teams kind of being late bloomers, right? If it takes, 1 or 2 games for them to get back on track and maybe start posting some better numbers, I'm absolutely fine with it. Like I said, there's still a lot to play for throughout, everything below first place.
which we're not going to talk about.
We don't talk about it, right? We don't talk about it.
2nd through 7th is being held together by some very, very thin paper here. Because let me see here. Let me tell you, Pac.
Is that a Clinton reference?
I try to make it work. Shout outs to Clint, sorry. 2nd place currently in 138, 3rd 136, 4th 126, 125, 123, 123. So realistically, 2nd through 7th, I mean, it is still absolutely a dogfight.
It is, yeah. And again, you got to look back towards the secondary prize, right? Which is the points, the PGC points themselves. So definitely still all to play for. A little less of a forgiving plane than what we've had on Erangel so far. Pretty much cutting straight over to the east side. It's a very, very short plane path. So hopefully not too much early game madness here, Godspeed.
Probably not. I think 97 is going to grab a gun, maybe try to shoot a little bit at Packerman, but nothing ultimately. Actually, I mean, one headshot with an AK, this is absolutely going to knock. But yeah, the West was pretty much cut off almost entirely, at least if you're trying to get to Monty or El Pozo. A lot of those teams might want to opt for a longer rotation.
Yeah, I mean, even look at it, Sonics are still floating. That just shows how far over it was. Just now touching down. The circle will post up over, I guess, directly centered on Junkyard, really. So giving gas cans a good opportunity to position themselves early. You can see them, they're sending shots, actually. Who's Honey Badger shooting at? Oh, okay. I was going to say, I can see Honey Badger shooting, and it's actually a people. That's 22 esports. The player tags aren't even up. They are floating over Graveyard. That's like a full kilometer away.
I mean, I'd assume they'd want to float towards San Martin, potentially even water treatment, but they are, by the time they even get halfway to landing, I'm pretty sure the first circle would have already posted.
Yeah, I guess this is what Clover was alluding to, right? Creative ways to put points up. Fair play to you, Honey Badger. You tried. You tried.
I mean, so looking at the circle, though, Honey Badger and the rest of Gas Cans pretty much have all the time in the world that they want to take kind of these really abrasive shots, on top of the fact that their split is very good in the early game. They have a lot of different rotation paths if they wanted to kind of consolidate or do a split. We'll have to see. But as well, 300 in a phenomenal shot. We're still watching these guys.
The 22 are just getting shot at by everybody that's already landed.
I don't want to say they deserve it, but if you're going to float that long in a pro lobby like this, I mean, you're bound to at least take some damage. Oh, and Penta has a 2x. Oh, and Penta has a 2. Oh,
no way!
Does he get a second?
He actually just beamed him. And yes, I heard your sheesh.
Oh, wait! He's landing more in a spray!
No way!
22 esports! Get down, please!
The worst thing is they've landed. Now Zenith are shooting them as well. Zenith are actually sending shots from the south over towards 22.
I mean, realistically, Pac, if you know, first of all, okay, if you know that not only Oath, but potentially SDK, Zenith loot around, you know, Power Grid, potentially, you know SDK is going to be somewhere around that Hacienda area, right?
Yeah.
That's
I mean, again, man, it's STK, like borderline trolling, but this is them in coast mode, right? They can harass everybody, absolutely everybody in the lobby. They literally got, like, I mean, Penta's doing that with a 2x mini. That's probably the first room he swung into in a house, and he's come back out. He's like, "Yep, cool, I'm shooting at them."
Not only that, but I'm pretty sure after the first 2 whiffs, he tagged the next 3 and just absolutely deleted that member of 22. And now we move over to 300. That's crazy. I can't believe we just watched that. But 300 as well. I talked a lot about their macro and the way that they like to position themselves in early game circles, specifically in ways that they can rotate effectively without having to run into too many teams. And that's exactly what they're setting up to do now. Again.
Indeed, the Sonics already going to hit the rotate out of Picardo. Try and get themselves up towards La Bendita at least, or maybe to a position where they can scout a little further in. Again, this is one of those circles that, because of the way the terrain works through Graveyard, Bendita, and kind of all the way south to Los Leones, really tricky to find good pathing into the circle, especially if you're down to the south or way far over to the west here. So hitting this rotation early enough, you know, get ahead of the congestion, right? Before a few other teams have come into this circle.
What this circle also has massive playability issues, specifically if it kind of shifts down to the south, right, Bach? I mean, we know
you
that
don't want to be there late. You don't want to be there late.
We know it's hard for these teams to get even a foothold. Eventually, if one of the teams rotates in too late, they're basically just going to have to go for a crash, which in these circles we know never works just because teams are already way too set up. And so, yeah, early rotations are going to be absolutely key. We see a lot of teams right now rotating, obviously Akreshi being one of those outside of the circle. But for the most part, I think a lot of the teams actually already in center have pretty much set up where they want to be for the next shift, which means that whatever becomes new center, the rotation off of the first circle is going to be very brutal. These east side circles are very tough on Miramar.
No, indeed. Again, it's kind of backed up by the statement that most of the teams already with a good opportunity to center up have got themselves into a good spot. And gas cans, obviously, as soon as that circle popped, have set themselves up in a wide split, actually. But again, this is banking on, you know, a lot of teams are going to say, well, we don't want to be late, so we're going to kind of sit on the edge of circles 1 and 2. Don't really want to mess with the center too much. So I'm fine with this split early on.
Yeah.
As long as there's not too much pressure coming in. I mean, even if you look at Oath and 300, they're going to sit south side of the road. This is another one that if this does center up, not even pull down to the south, it centers up. It's really, really tricky because of the way this terrain works.
And specifically because of that, I'm actually looking at teams like Dodge and In Czech, who, you know, just won the last game, even in Rage. Like these teams that are super far south that are eventually going to have to go through that choke point that is that area, that road that leads past Porto up and towards the bottom side of Impala. That's going to be kind of the choke point, I think, for a lot of these teams coming in the south, especially because of the fact that they're going to have to run into each other. And now, with 300 as well getting on this massive rock, they're going to have so much vision. But on the other side of things, Pac, we actually have Young Kings KF9 also trying to be a little bit of a billy goat here.
Trying to Sherpa his way up the other side. Yeah, head kick. Again, it's difficult really here. I see, is he going to take these shots? I mean, as soon as he does, it's going to give... Actually, head kick's going to open up. Yeah, onto Coffee, who's transitioning past. Now that's going to pull KF9 back over towards this side of the rock. See, now he's going to get the audio cue, have a good idea of where head kick is, but Coffee will escape for the time being.
I'm not even sure KF9 was spotted, to be completely honest.
Nope, he wasn't.
He was ready to take
100%,
shots. But then, yeah. Head kick was actually the one. So I think the real question is, and I don't think I've been up here too many times. Is there a path for him to go around and potentially surprise head kick?
I think you have to drop down and climb back up on the other side if you're on the south side of this rock. But
I think LATAM might have just
yeah, he did. Yeah.
Okay, so that play is now out of the books. Meanwhile, over here with SDK, we see Penta actually a bit of a rough spot here, as his compound was actually taken over by SDK. The other possibility I just realized as well, Pac, is this could potentially hard shift north, which means that giant road ravine area that leads just west of Al-Zahar is going to be out. Wait, what is this?
Guess they really wanted that shack.
Yeah,
I mean, Spicy Fish spread out for basically a rotation trap over on this east road. Again, you can see straight away sharp shot there to lay down some damage to back Keenan up. So complementary angles.
Mm-hmm. That's the one thing I do love about Spicy Fish is even though sometimes their splits do get them in trouble, at the very least they continue to do them and apply pressure. And a lot of the times, even if they do lose 1 or 2 members, they at least come out with 2 or 3 kills or just completely wiping out a team. So Spicy Fish continuing to play their confidence game in these splits, and I really like it.
Yeah, I mean, depending on how late they stay, in Czech are still making their way into this circle.
True.
And that's a worrying prospect, really, if you give a team like Spicy Fish time to maintain these kind of positions. And again, if the plan is to just camp rotates, they'll ride it out until this next circle posts.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of the next circle, it is posting. I also want to point out Durrani. I love their position. They're actually almost playing Pac for that split if it does go hard north, because that again, that road, that ravine in between Azahar is brutal. Doesn't matter. We don't have to worry about it. Now we have a completely new set of issues, and that is the playable area around the circle towards the south.
I guess actually Oath, situated in jungle oasis, so oasis. I don't know why I said like that. Oasis.
What a down in Oasis.
Jungle and Oasis. Just outside Minas. Doing my best The Sims impression there.
It was close.
They've got guns.
They've got guns. Shout out to Sims. Love that, man. Fortunately, not shout out to Finna. He is going to go down. Hellas Empire now. So on the other side of Impala, which is still technically in. In fact, not technically, but it is quite into the south. So a lot of these teams probably not going to rotate too quickly. Young Kings, again, finding early aggression. And nice headshot by Hjagen.
Yeah, try and follow it up with the nade here. Nobody
And
really in it. Straight through the window.
Absolutely beautiful.
So nobody really in a spot to and a second pan finish. A second pan finish.
Shots coming out as well from
Is this game
Spicy
6?
Fish.
Is it game 6 right now? Is it? Are we
No, it's not game 6 yet. It's not game 6 scrims. No. But look at Keenan again. Spicy Fish with the control, keeping the split. They actually were able to.
It's in check as well.
Yeah. I feel like they pushed actually in check down into this position. And the other issue is that in check now would potentially have to deal with coming out of that by dealing with Young Kings, and Young Kings have been incredibly impressive so far, at least in their early game holds. Except for last game. We don't talk about last game, and Crash got a little bit of advantage on them.
Didn't happen.
But overall, I do really like Young Kings and their early game aggression, and they potentially may take some of that out on in check. We'll have to see. Spicy Fish, meanwhile, Keenan is looking north for another position, and luckily for them, actually, the north is almost completely open.
Yeah, it is. I was just looking at 300, still in this split. I mean, it was later in head kick. We talked about them occupying the rock on the other side of. I can't remember who was it that was contesting them. I can't remember now. It was KF9, right?
Yeah, it was KF9.
But Neff and Vox, look at them. They're positioned pretty far off to the northeast there. I saw Vox sending shots out just to kind of, I guess, posturing or puffer fishing, however you want to say it, just to, I guess, keep people honest. Neff doing the same now. You can see the traces sent out on the minimap. And really, if Spicy Fish can identify that, you can see that creates a huge amount of space, really, and arguably a very good spot. Those kind of ridges, that terrain just to the north of Vox's position. How many times have we seen a team win circles like this from there?
It's phenomenal, especially if you're foot pushing as well. And I think that's a really good point that you bring up. 300 kind of need to think, hey, should we consolidate or do we potentially risk losing one of these duos in the split? And that's kind of always the tough choice for a lot of these teams to make, is when do we consolidate? We'll have to see. 300 seems like they absolutely want to just hang out and keep the split. And to be fair, they haven't really been pressured, so I can't imagine why they would stop. Yeah, they have. I mean, they have this entire compound, just 2 members. I mean, no one is even close to them. Obviously, as you said, Vox has been taking shots, trying to get people away, but.
And it's a similar sort of thing, right? You get this in the center of circle 1, circle 2 post. Oh,
dear, my goodness. Sorry, continue.
Hemi's got balls of steel to stick that when that Marauder came charging up the ridge. But again, you get a position like this, and if you can hold on to a split, because teams aren't going to want to explore the circle. It's only really that, if I mean, depending on the next circle shift, whether or not teams are going to have to make that desperation, that move, that the rotation to kind of find anything at all in the circle, which is why 300 are able to sit as they have up until now, 15 minutes into the game.
Yeah, and finally they actually have consolidated, but you're right. I mean, ultimately, controlling that much space in the circle is going to be really beneficial, especially in a circle like this where there's really not much to play. Especially the further south we go, Pac, the further open it becomes. Look at this, Durrani finally finding a fight with Spicy Fish. This is going to be a very clean 4-on-4, but here, wait a second!
The double seat swap there, but Emmy actually going to quickly come through and trade Roth out. And Zenith getting involved as well. Look at this, 4 teams in the kill feed. 303 get involved now. And actually, Feisker is the solo. It's Durani the full first.
In the meanwhile, Sharpshot completely dismantling most of what was left of Durrani, but now, yes, Zenith knows that this is going to be an incredibly good situation for them to push into. As it's just sharp left, and it's actually Oldless coming in the other side. So just like that, both teams fighting absolutely pinched to death. Yeah.
A fifth team in the mix.
Unbelievable. Wow. That was...
Do you know the worst thing is? STK actually over to the west of this. I just saw them starting to make moves here. Yeah, Kurt.
Yep.
Getting right on top of this to try and third party once again.
I think, if anything, this has showed incredible. That was a bold move, but it actually might work. Oh, no way. No way did that work.
Little bait and switch there. And actually, I think, yeah, going to try and go and get the res onto Honey Badger, but Maluk going to find another knock. Adam, the second member of Gas Cans now, downed. And Luke 12 actually going to steal away with the molly. That was the... I guess the only member of Gas Cans that was able to keep SDK held at arm's length for the time being.
And this is awful for the Gas Cans. This is actually the worst position they can be in between SDK and Zenith, who both are just peppering them, destroying vests, helmets, getting knocks. I mean, utility is being used. This is a really rough situation for Gas Cans. Meanwhile, yeah, Zenith is just having a good old time, as well as SDK just dictating everything. And Gas Cans unfortunately caught in the middle. Still, at the south side of the circle, we're about to post. And it doesn't really seem like SDK is going to let off the gas. And rightly so. There's no reason for them to.
Yeah, and I mean, Oath have been chilling this whole time. We know down in Oasis. Oh. Actually, yeah, look at it. It's going to pull back to the north. So,
and this is...
Wow. Oh, no. That's literally 5 teams that have been completely screwed out of this one.
Old Times, though, at the very least, I mean, if they can realize, whatever team actually realizes that that south compound is clean is going to be in one of the better positions for it. There's nobody in that direct south compound, which was formerly occupied by 300, actually, who have moved up now. And they're starting to get involved with Zenith, as well as Gas Cans.
Well, this obviously was the position earlier on that Neff and Vox were occupying. This was the one where they were trying to posture and, I guess, keep as many teams away from as possible. Alo now playing very close contact onto 22 Esports. Got 3 members to deal with here. So they did take a casualty earlier on in the game. Out of the sky, no less.
Alo so flashed. He's going to walk in. Still a chance. So SDK is still 4 members healthy. The cover is in. Beautiful shots coming in from SDK. Luke 12. We love to see it. And now Alo with all the freedom. And I can tell you this, Alo is one of the last players you want on the side of Hill working that close range.
Absolutely is. I mean, it's just the structure here, the setup from SDK that Alo is able to play his life so effectively. Kurt's now here to sweep the edge, but Luke 12 putting the damage in when it was absolutely crucial to bail Alo out of the situation.
Yeah, and Puck, look at 22. They're now completely pinned. What a what an absolutely disgusting shot there. That headshot is going to catch Vinny off guard, and now this is just a matter of systematic destruction. Spray coming in, red dot, doesn't matter, doesn't need a scope. Beautiful shots, and that's 22.
Close range?
Close range,
got a
medium
distance
range,
as well.
Doesn't matter. Any range, really. As we move back over to Gas Cans and Zenith. Still embroiled on this fight. Meanwhile, here comes In Check in the flank, and things just got a little interesting as Zenith now finds himself in the middle of the sandwich.
Yeah, one of the teams to come in from the south side is Maluk did fall somewhere along the way. I'm not actually sure if that was the Gas Cans or what, but I think 3 members for Zenith. Was it somewhere in the...
I think it was a return knock from one of those teams, yeah. Either Gas Cans or SDK. Oh my goodness.
Warning shots, I guess.
And we heard Selfish say it himself, you know, unfortunately, and Check seems to get the butt end of the stick as far as circles, but I mean, they're making their way in here. They absolutely have a fighting chance here against Zenith. Not only are they sandwiched, but In Check still has 3 members alive. Meanwhile, a very kind of quiet Sonic's just been kind of coasting in the circles, now starting to push up to SDK. And Zampa coming in on this anchor position could actually provide some cover if they decide to push, but realistically, pushing across the street is probably not going to be the play they choose, especially with that circle shift. And this is one compound and all terrain, Puck.
It is, yeah, and unfortunately it's cut a lot of this terrain out to the east, to the
Which is where
it's the stronger side of the terrain here. So again, yeah, talking about crossing the road being a little precarious, SDK have to do that. Now, whether or not they can fight their way back over to the east, maybe. Again, I'm seeing a bit of space in front of Gascans and Zenith. Now, if that fight drags out whilst the circle starts closing, then SDK have a window of opportunity, but whether or not they're going to be able to figure this out along the way.
In my opinion, it's actually 300 that potentially has the best position in this circle. So realistically, all they have to do is just clean up the teams that inevitably are probably going to fight on that northeast edge, and then they just take control of, I think, the entire north, right? I mean, look at the ridges and everything that they have to play with. Meanwhile, as this fight is going down, I'm actually wondering if 300 is going to get aggressive.
Speaking of getting aggressive, Zenith now mounting this push on to Gascan's going to find the opener. Punij finds the second as well. Shimboy looking to close things out versus Honey Badger, but it's actually Vegas over the top. Very comfortably handled there by Zenith. Pick themselves up 3 more kills as well and clear a lot of space for themselves to get into this next circle.
They do. I mean, they can come in on the north pretty much uncontested, and at that point they could actually push on to 300, which again has an incredibly strong position in the circle, but not to leave out Oath as well. Still in the compound, have control. The issue now is
actually what?
One grenade.
What did Neff just do?
I don't know. I thought we had time to talk about Young Kings, but apparently not. And so now it's up to Oath to try to figure out what they're going to do with this edge. Sonics as well as SDK. Now this is like 3 Titans about to go off in the northwest.
This year is ultimately about who makes the first move, to be honest with you. Later, sending some shots up towards Vegas.
You're absolutely
in the
right.
distance. Now, actually, 300 do have themselves a lot of space, but again, it's difficult to flex out unless you have really, really good information on the teams that are set up in this terrain. Basically, everything, I mean, to the west and northwest of the compound they're occupying is achievable as long as Zenith
Zenith is absolutely the key to this for 300, and as we see, they're starting to get a little more aggressive. I also still like the fact that they've left one in the compound just in case one of the teams from the south try to come up. So again, showing a lot of wise decision making. Meanwhile, Zampa it feels so weird casting this game with you and casting Zampa, by the way. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Oh no, it's actually a Crusaders. Damaging 300 from distance now, but hello, Penta's actually managed to get himself into a position. Look at that.
Gets both with a huge molly.
I thought it was 300. 300 were like charging up the hill towards Zenith, and it's STK that sweep it. Well, Penta actually that swoops in.
A beautiful placed molly. Just like that, Sonics now getting ready to take their fight with Enrage, who as well has kind of been quiet this game, just doing some damage from the west, slowly making their way in.
All that native money.
Yeah, they finally have to fight. It's actually Kaishen gonna find the knock with an SLR from behind.
Yeah, Crescia, I mean, with this shift, able to position really, really well. But look at this. Yeah, Zampa actually left lurking up outside the compound now. It's gonna a little bit of split focus from Sonics here. Shrimsy and Tiggleton the last 2 standing. And Oath now obviously having got that information and seen the kill feed. They got numbers on Sonics and a relatively good idea of their positioning. But look at this. Neff over the top trying to scout out SDK.
That's going to be, again, another knock from Neferhor. Beautiful, but nice trade. And another knock coming out for SDK. Can they get a third? 300's in a little bit of trouble now. But so is SDK, very low. Luke's still on the boost. He's not going to make it. And that is it. Vox with a beautiful clutch, saving 300.
Again?
Yeah, Vox, man. Last game, it was at Heaven. This game, it's over here in the north, but now Oath is completely taken over the north side of the circle. They need to get in quick. They have to be careful, though, not to funnel.
No! Oh no! Kaisha knocks Flux and then Belfast runs Relo over. What is going on? 2 team knocks. Oh my god, Kaisha's actually down on the south side trying to provide cover for Flux.
And the problem is there's 2 members down there. Unreal. Wow.
You said it wasn't game 6. What is going on, man? It's 10 alive.
It's not even game 4. And now we look at 300, who pretty much have all but control on the east side. I mean, realistically, they can just pull up and just pick apart these teams that are already hurting. I mean, you have 1 member on Dodge, 1 on In Check, 2 on Akreshe, and 2 on Oath, and a full 4-man for 300 still. And you want to talk about closing the gap between 2nd and 3rd. I mean, if they could get a win here, that would be huge. But still, Oath is in this game 2 alive. They do have the Shack as well as... Actually, no, they don't have the Shack. It's just Balefrost now. Wow, what an unbelievable series of events for Akreshe. Still 5 kills, though. Still 5 kills, still in there, 2 members.
They pull south again. Love that for them. Love that for them.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they've been fighting. They've been playing hard, at least today so far. In the last 2 games, they're still fighting here. We'd like to see Akreshe at the very least climb. And In Check as well. 1 member left, but... I mean, he is in the circle. Realistically... Imagine 300 will find him, but nice shots coming out. Kai Shen as well as Hiker Man. That is going to be just 1 member now left for Oath. And we talked about it, Pac. There's nothing to play in the middle of the circle.
No. I guess really the player count is a byproduct of that. 3 solos. Akreshe down on the south as a duo, and 300 4 strong. 11 kills, 7 on the back of Neff.
Neff has been out of control this entire event. Easily one of the MVPs for me in this tournament, as well as his team. Even still, though, 300 moving together, playing as a unit, still love to see it. These guys have been so impressive this event so far. It's hard to ignore. And they're gonna, yeah, they're just gonna send it in the middle. They know it's completely open. They know it's clean. Complete circle control. It's really up to the solos and Akreshe here to see if they can do anything to kind of take down this team, and that's going to be In Check down 97. So our final 4 teams are really just essentially a 4-on-4 if you look at how many players are alive.
There's still lots of utility for 300 to make use of here. Headkick actually going to find a great knock there, leaving Kaishin the last man standing for Akreshe. Really, a little bit of hesitation there of whether or not he should push any further or try and sit back here, get some more kills. Balefrost going to be dealt with. Oath out in 4th now. 300 find themselves in a 4v1v1. That res definitely not going to come through.
No, there's no chance that res comes through. At the very same time, I think 300 is pretty much going to wrap this up. I'd always like to say, hey, there's hope, but ultimately with this much control, I find it really difficult to see if 300 would throw this. But ultimately, it just started for them with their rotations again. They had a really good spot.
Was that early split again?
And yeah, early split, beginning of the circle. They took their time. I was worried that if they didn't consolidate a little earlier, it would cost them, but really it didn't. And now it's just a matter of time as 300 is slowly starting to spread out and check every angle. They know essentially where the last 2 players are. I'm almost sure they know where Kaishin is. And now they're just looking for Hikerman.
And I think they've got numbers as well. You can see Neff and Later both posted up looking that direction, and Vox and Headkick now in a position where they can go and explore the rest of the circle, try and fish out Hikerman. But he is tucked on that rock, and there's a lot of distance to close. I don't even think... I mean, yeah, just about throwable range. But they got time. There's no real pressure right now. They can wait for this one to close before making a decision. And really, I mean, once they clean up Kaishin, that... Actually, as I say that, they're going to go out and push.
Yep, that's going to be one of the easiest kills of Leta's career. And just like that, yep, they know exactly where the last member is. This is all but a formality at this point. As I...
choose how you want to die, Kaishin. Yeah, choose how you want to go out. In a blaze of glory. Love to see it. There you go. 300 close things out. 15 kills. What a game from them. As I said, that early positioning, it maybe looks a little greedy, but it massively pays off for them with the amount of pressure they're able to output.
And I feel like the only time or the only reason really we call it greedy is because so many times before in the past we've seen those splits
get punished
and they lose members, and because of that, one of the game-winning positions that they were essentially split in are gone. But despite all of that, 300 was able to not only hold it, they were able to kind of herd some other teams away, shoot off some teams. We saw Vox doing a lot of shooting early game, which didn't amount to damage, but it wasn't about that. It was about almost peacocking, letting the other teams know they were there. And then even then, their decision to consolidate when they did was almost perfect. Again, their macro is just really on point. 300 has been playing really well this entire event. And Neferhor, really can't say enough about him.
No, again, he ended on 7 as well, and head kick, I guess, following up with 4 of his own, 2 apiece for later on Vox, but just a really, really well approached game down. I love to see them get proactive as well. I was saying they did have time to wait for that circle to close out, but say, look, we got numbers, we got a general idea of where Kaishin is. Well, know exactly where Kaishin is, and they went fishing for Heikeman. They didn't want to, I guess, leave anything to chance for, a solo to potentially spoil or backstab. Starting the highlights with this, man.
So glad we saw that. Look, so he whiffs a few shots, and then all of a sudden, it's like he comes online and just absolutely deletes Biznaga. And I'm like, has that ever happened to you in a pro game? Because I don't think I've ever died parachuting like that. Like, what would your comms even be like? And what was this? This actually threw us both off completely.
Honestly, for a second, I glanced over and I thought this was Spicy Fish, like, pulling up on the same shack and just the
other 2 members.
But I don't know. Again, a really nice early rotation trap set up by Spicy Fish. It got them, netted them a few kills, but again, that transition to the mid game, Godspeed over to the north. Yes, you get a credit to maybe a funky shift or 2. But this was where things kind of started falling. I mean, look at it. There's 5-6 teams over on this side.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I do like the fact that they were able to camp and they throw off some rotations. But yeah, they came in obviously a little later as well. And because of that, they actually got sandwiched by Zenith and SDK and Gas Cans. It was 5 teams actually that were involved when they started to get in that fight. And here we see the beautiful cover coming out from Luke 12. And I mean, you know me, Puck, I'm a big stickler for playing for trades. And I think SDK played that almost perfect.
Yeah, they really did. You see, Zenith did go forward and deal with, but Penta here just doing so much damage. He got the first stop with the nade. Poonage set down to about, less than 10 HP, because I think on impact, the molly finished him off there. But, really good game overall from Zenith as well.
Yeah,
it did fall a little earlier maybe than expected, but again, I respect any team that fights for that terrain up on the northeast side.
And here we see the ending where 300 just basically hunts the last couple members. And yeah, what a finish to a game. I also want to talk real quick about Gas Cans. Actually, we'll talk about Gas Cans after this. But 325 points in that game. And Akreshia close behind with 12. A much-needed game. Again, they're starting to find their groove, it seems.
Yeah, actually, the 3rd game in succession with double digits, right? I think it's a good look today, at least for the Americas region. A couple of teams really making moves, at least. And 300, after a rough day, you got to say, yesterday. I mean, they struggled a little bit considering how they started off. But very top-heavy this time around. No surprise. Again, Shoot to Kill, one of their bad games, man. It's 9 points once again in terms of putting something up before they go out, and that's what I'm talking about. They don't necessarily have to worry about all these other things that teams are, constantly kind of trying to sweat out these placements. They can run and play deathmatch. They can find a team, push them in circle 2 or 3, and it's not really going to matter that much.
It's not. And that's the scariest thing about playing against an SDK that has nothing to lose.
Nothing to lose.
They are just complete. Yeah, man, when you play against a team, especially that's super confident like that, especially a team like SDK or even Sonics or Oath, it's almost like fighting an uphill battle. And the other thing I wanted to talk about briefly with you is Gas Cans. Although they did have a really inconsistent game, overall, I think their climb from being on the very bottom to where they are now has shown a lot of growth because, as we know, Gas Cans came in really, really lukewarm into this event.
Tepid, some may say, Godspeed. But, again, that's... They built that expectation up for themselves, right? Last year they were so explosive and so exciting to watch with this very fast and loose play style. So really, it's good to see them trend back up. But that's the sign of a good team, right? Is going through a bad week and then coming back and resetting and doing the things that you're known for doing, just sticking to your play style.
Exactly. It's what you want to see from a team that has struggled. Well, 3 games, Spock. That's 3 games in the book. We still have 1 more game to go, guys. So please make sure you're not going anywhere, because more PUBG action right after this.
Welcome back to the ESL PUBG Masters Americas. 3 games played, 1 left to go today. My name's Toffees. I'm joined by Clover, Cameron, and Vox from our Winners 300. I would ask how you're doing, but I assume it's pretty good after that win. How's it feel to completely and utterly destroy the entire lobby around you? Fascinating. I like his answers. He's a man of few words, and I think that speaks volumes in its own right. That said, we had a technical difficulty. We were there. We had questions. But I'm sure what Vox would have said is we are just that good. And they have been, Cameron. They came into this event like bats out of hell and have been sort of, with the exception of SDK, nonstop since the start of this thing. Did you... Oh, wait a minute. Is he here for us? Let's see if Fox is back. There he is.
There he is. Hey.
How's it feel to be back?
Hello. Good. Great. Glad to be back.
Hey, you know, can I just comment briefly on how clean everything is behind you? And also, hanging plants are meant for hanging. I'm just going to throw that one out there for you. But live your best life, Fox.
Thank you. Well prepared.
Let me start with the question. You guys came into this event with all cylinders fired. You have been absolutely wild. Did you guys I'm going to be real. You were not in my conversation for top 3 coming into this event. I think you convinced a lot of us. You deserve to be there. Did you guys have that mindset? We're a top 3, top 2, top 1 team coming into this thing?
We know experience-wise, all of us, we've been in the scene for a while. We feel like our experience level is definitely up there, top 5 at least. We weren't too confident in being obviously first place. It's against the best teams in the world. So, you know, we didn't expect to be doing as good as we are, but we feel confident throughout the whole time that, you know, we should be here. Yeah.
Okay. Clover?
I mean, you bring up top 5. You guys right now are leading in terms of Miramar for average placement. You have 7 top 5s so far, and 2 of which have resulted in chicken dinners. When you guys are playing to make it to that late game? Are you playing for kills? Like, what's your mindset going into each of these matches?
Every game's different, of course, and I think we take it game by game, but overall, we are really trying to just get the most points we can out of each match, and if that means winning the game, or if that means just taking a bunch of team fights, we're going to do it, and we're going to make sure it happens, yeah.
Okay. I do want to ask, as I want to do with the 3 of us, to ask you about sort of a more question regarding the whole tournament so far. You came out of the gates really, really strong, and you've been good for the most part, but there have been a little bit of, shall we say, ups and downs in terms of momentum and performance game to game as this tournament has gone on. I'm wondering your perspective on how the progression of 300 has been in this event. We threw 8 Latin American teams into the mix. There's still a little bit of a learning progress there. I'm just curious what you think on that.
Yeah, we've definitely had ups and downs. I think so far this week we've had 20 points on the board, if that, excluding this last game. So we're definitely still feeling it out and figuring out something. We're learning something new every game. You know, we're taking something away and adding it into next game, and it's compounding. So I think the more games we get in, like every team, we're going to have our ups and downs, but we'll stay consistent at the end of the day.
Nice. It sounds like you guys are in the right headspace. You're looking towards the future instead of sort of just the moment. But you're going to go home with PGC points, so I think that's definitely looking towards the future. As we look towards the rest of the year, do you feel like your current play style that you guys are executing on is going to have to change a ton going into the next event, or have you already sort of prepared for that process? What's it look like for you going forward?
Yeah, I think our play style is going to be pretty similar. I think a lot of teams are going to tweak what they do, and I think we will as well. But we're going to try to stay true to our roots and continue doing what we found success in with this tournament and try to just transfer it over into the new format, yeah.
Nice. I like it. All right, cool. Well, I'm not going to hold you much longer. I know you got to get back to prepare for your next win. Any shout-outs or call-outs maybe you want to throw down before you head out of here?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, everyone, for keeping us supported in the chat. It's awesome. I love seeing the chat going off with us sometimes. It's great. So thanks, everyone, for supporting. And, yeah, shout out to my coach, company man. He's doing a great job keeping us prepared. And my teammates, they're doing great. Yep.
Awesome. Well, you guys are doing great, and I can't wait to see what continues as we keep moving forward with you. Good luck. Have fun. Enjoy your last game.
Thanks.
All right. I'm glad we got him back. I like that mentality. He was honest. It's funny. Sometimes you ask these questions, Clover. You're like, did you really see yourself as a top 3 team? And, players are trained to say yes because I have a winner's mentality. But the reality is we don't always feel that way about ourselves. And I think his answer was honest. We have experience, but maybe weren't expecting performance at this level.
Yeah, and I mean, as you say, we come into these events, we're looking at the shoot to kills, the Sonics, the teams that have that experience both on LAN and at events, continuously performing at the top. And I think that with this team, it's showing the growth of the region as a whole as well. And going forward after ESL Masters into PCS4 and beyond, it's going to be really exciting to watch a team like 300 grow.
It will be. And players like Headkick, who, again, is sort of just kicking the doors down on the scene and becoming a big name. Let's take a look at the standings. I think after that, they may be moving up to second place or something close to it. 150.
You peaked.
I did math mentally, and then I peaked. And then I said...
then you peaked to confirm. Yeah.
I can't do math on stream.
Listen,
I don't know.
You never reveal the magic, okay? That said, 150 under normal circumstances, this would be a heck of an event for them, man. Cameron?
Yeah, actually. I did mention in the interview with Vox that there has been a little bit up and down, but for the most part, it's been a pretty steady climb from them. They've never been the most explosive squad. One of my biggest observations of theirs is that they're like water. They go with the flow, and that sort of reads in what Vox's answer to Clover, I think, of they just play each round as it is, and that's such a generic question, but for 300 really does make sense. There's been a couple of games that they go into fights really early on, but then remember, one of their first wins was on Miramar that they just sat in a compound and didn't really need to fight. So their strategy contains multitudes.
Yeah, multitudes. But I like that they're not really changing it up, Clover. I like that they said, hey, we do what we do and we're going to keep doing it. That's kind of cool. I like that vibe.
Yeah, I mean, the aggression from this team as well. I think since the day one, we've talked about the ability for them to put down damage, put down kills. We see Neferher right here at the top on both these lists. And when we saw that comparison chart against Zenith earlier, 92 kills for both teams, tied with Sonics, who also has 92. So it just goes to show you that even on those games where 300 isn't getting a chicken dinner, they're maybe not even making the top 5, they're still finding ways to put down kills. And you love to see that from teams.
Don't get mad at me, fans. It makes me so angry. We're getting other winners, and we're talking about them, and we're looking at the damage leaders. And STK is still on all of these charts. Like, just give me a game without them, Cam.
They're always getting their points. Yeah, sure, they're going out in like close to 8th place halfway through the match, but they're still getting 5, 6, 8 kills every single time. I mean, it's not as good as yesterday, I guess.
Right. Listen, if they keep this up, this is I can't wait to bring NA PUBG out to the international after this because our guys are flying high. That said, it's time for the last game of the day. Let's do this thing. Let's go to the high-speed combo of Hypoc and Godspeed with the final call. Yeet.
There it is. There it is. That's what I was waiting for all this time. Even threw in a yeet at the end. Beautifully done. Thank you,
For good
Steve.
measure.
For good measure. But yeah, this is the last game of the day, and I want to say we've been talking a lot about obviously STK. It's hard not to, as well as the other teams that are in that 2nd through 7th place. But one team that's really surprised me and sticking it to the rest of the NA at least is Durrani. Durrani is in that fight as well for 2nd place, and they have been playing incredibly well, not only yesterday but as well as today.
Yeah, they have. Like we said before that last game started, 2nd to 7th, still a lot to play for there. And a big game from one of those contenders previously, 300, it just goes to show. I mean, ahead of the last day tomorrow, it's still all to play for, man. And a few teams, I don't want to say letting their foot off the gas a little bit, but, slipping today.
And there's that's kind of one of the things that I've noticed in certain teams, and you and I have talked about it in the past. It's almost disappointing to see a team that even when they're in last place just, as you said, take their foot off the gas and basically give up. And honestly, we've seen some amazing comebacks in the history of this game, especially in tournament play when teams are behind and they've rallied and maybe they don't win, but it's still placed in the top 8, top 5 even. So that's really what I want to see from these teams that are struggling right now.
Yeah, it's I guess almost a mirror image, flipped at least, but slightly more to the north here on the plane path. So lots of space over to the northeast this time, as opposed to the west and northwest.
At least the puzzle losers get to go close.
I was going to say a lot more forgiving for some of these western teams.
For sure. Last game, like you said, it was actually even more south, though. Yeah, I believe you're right. But an early knock. Young Kings Hyagin actually is going to go down before anyone else hits the ground, I guess.
Yeah, that's tough. He's trying to parachute into the scaffolding here.
I can tell exactly what happened. Yep, clipped and down he went. As now it's up to one of the members of his team, probably poor KF9, who's in the middle of looting probably something juicy like an SLR8X, is now going to have to go res his teammate.
Nice, Luke. Nice, dude.
I think he almost hit that, to be completely honest with you.
I mean, if he did, it's 1 damage, surely. At that range. I don't know if Trish Gatsley... Trish Gatsley, maybe. He's going to spot. No way.
Dude.
That's
like
tough.
This. Oh, not like this, Young Kings. Not only that, but it seems as though even KF9 has taken some damage as well. So 303 and Young Kings have shared this before, but ultimately this time it ended with a very unfortunate first death of the game, just like our first game, Puck, where someone drowned. So, and I think it was also potentially Young Kings, actually.
Wait, it was, wasn't it?
I think it was either them or Cresce, I don't remember. But regardless, we have a...
It was a Cresce.
I'll trust you.
You're testing my memory now. That was over an hour ago.
Yeah,
Come on.
your memory is actually out of control. But this circle has now posted, and this has pretty much been the opposite of what we've seen, at least in the last game, as well as even on the Erangels. These circles just continue to be very difficult to play. This one specifically being in the south, there's still a good amount of water in, and that terrain, although it's great for running and gunning as well as just fighting on foot, but it is awful for vehicles. Absolutely awful.
Well, we'll say is it's a good circle for two teams that are a hot topic right now. 300 and Gascans.
Yeah.
300 over to the north side of this, and Gascans down to the south with a lot of space to play with, and a similar situation, right? This is one that this is a circle you don't want to come late to, so some of these teams that will find themselves a nice split in the center of this circle are probably going to be able to flex a little bit and maintain that through circle 2. Now, how greedy they want to get we'll have to wait and see, but I mean, a lot of this circle is eaten up by Los Leones. And I think on circle 1, lots of teams are going to probably opt not to mess with going into the city. At least try and find something on the edge of Los Leones, which, if you look at it here, not many options over to the north and west. And down on the south side, you run the risk of rotating into somebody that's been sat there since hopping out of the plane.
Or the other risk as well, as you said, rotating into Los Leones early, is the fact that if that shifts off, you're stuck. You're stuck with not only maybe one team in front of you, but 3 other teams that are on the south that were trying to see if the circle was indeed going to post in Leones, or some of the teams camping rotations. I mean, hell, 300 could absolutely camp some rotations here from the north trying to come in, because that south road is incredibly popular for teams to come in, whether it's from the north or from the east or from the west. To be completely honest, that south road is one of the main pivotal entry points for rotations for a lot of these teams.
So we've seen Zenith, or at least Punage, making moves south. Shinboy, Maluka Vega still up on his power grid plateau for the time being. Sonic's just about now coming out of Picardo around the 4-minute 30 mark. No shock there. We do hop on board with them, yep.
Win?
I was going to say, yeah. Didn't like, oh no, a little bit of a loot swap there.
Wait, Zampa? They're just dropping, yeah. I always get so nervous when I see that, because you never know. At some point, you could just be looting. You guys have cleared, obviously, you know your city is safe, and then someone just takes a shot randomly from outside the city, and you've lost one. But Sonics will be fine. They're going to rotate in, and as we said before, a lot of teams are already starting to center up, but not in Leones, around Leones.
Yeah, and weirdly enough, Gascans did come out of Puerto Paraiso fairly early on, but Enrage have got themselves situated south of them. Now, if we take into account the water, yes, we can look a couple of circles ahead, and it's more than likely going to finish a bit further north than where they are positioned, but at least got themselves in a position where they have good access to a couple of compounds, or at least, you know, they can scout them out, they can leapfrog and make some moves in. So Gascans, I guess, a little slow to the rotate here, which is surprising for them, because we know they are a team that likes to split early on, especially when they're gifted with a comfortable circle 1.
I mean, we've watched it the last 3 games, as well as just so far this whole event. Gascams have split. Now, whether that's been successful or not has obviously been debatable, but realistically, they still have somewhat of a split, but it's definitely not as big as we've normally seen from them. As well as looking at Oath rotating in all the way from the north, it looks like 300 has opted not to try to camp a rotation, and now we see SDK as well. Except the only issue is SDK has 22 in front of them now. I don't think that's going to cause them any rotational issues, but they may try to go a little wider to avoid running into 22. But as well, watching them kind of bully Enrage, I'm surprised they're actually not just driving straight into 22 Esports.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a little surprised they're as cautious as they are, but it's actually reconsidering moving elsewhere. Oath have managed to get themselves into a tricky spot here as kind of contesting 300 for the east side of Leones. See head kick now coming up top of the unplayable spot. And Relo as well trying to scout his way south. Now, got to be careful not to stand still for too long. If 2 members of 300 can get sight lines on him, they could team shot him off the top here, and very difficult res from the high ground.
I also always find it so fascinating, Pac. We were talking about earlier how much Leones is going to be a mess and this and that, and that's generally the case. But if I swear, every time we look at Leones in these circles, it's always empty, because everybody thinks that it's going to be occupied, but it's actually completely empty.
This is almost like, I mean, completely different part of the map. And I mean, you compare it to the Yasnaya circle or Wrangle, right? Where at this stage, everyone's just like, yeah, we don't even, like, we'll take it if it happens. But I mean, some of these teams down to the south, it's going to be really difficult. If this bounces hard north or hard to the northwest.
Oh, I mean, look at old times in Rage. Those guys are going to be in a lot of trouble for sure. But
the thing is, yes, there's teams scattered in front of them, but it's the nature of these roads in. It makes it so difficult. There's so many spots on high ground looking down. Correct. You're basically driving through a choke point to get back into Leonis. So these are the tricky sorts of circles, really, if it does come back to Leonis, because this terrain down to the southeast just makes it so rough for these teams.
But if you look at the terrain around Leonis, it's essentially resting in a bowl almost, especially from the south. I mean, all of that is going to be open, as well as you're going to have, like you said, teams waiting to see whether the circle is going to shift in or not. So if you're one of the teams that's further on the south or further on the outside, you're going to have to contest with not only the circle, you're going to have to contest with the teams in front of you waiting to see where the circle goes. As we see Zenith now, again, using the south road, this is a very popular rotation spot for pretty much all the teams on this map when the circle goes this far south, unless they're already set up in the circle. And just like that, Zenith is going to be there. What I'm curious about is whether or not Zenith is going to try to stay and potentially play this late and camp some teams trying to come in late.
Sure, yeah, we've got my eye on the map just to see what SDK decide to do, whether or not they want to basically ruin anyone else's game, right? They're in a good spot, really, if there were a couple more teams to rotate in from the north, but XX actually going to open up onto members of Zenith. I think a Shinboy, actually. Got a little bit of damage, force him away. Yeah, a cluster of teams down on the... I was going to say, a cluster of teams down on the south side here. They've got to be... got to be cautious sending out these shots and I guess put a target on their back for anybody nearby. And there's Spicy Fist actually rotating in from the west along this south road that will find Vegas. So Zenith got themselves kind of pinched.
Yeah, not only that, they lost members. And I really like actually Civ's position here. And this is what Spicy Fish, we talk about splits. Spicy Fish is one of those teams that love splits more than anything. Hackman and Lamplot. Happens. We're just going to gloss over that. But yeah, Spicy Fish tend to like these splits all the time. And I love the fact that they generally will leave an anchor behind to make sure that they can pretty much put all their attention forward and put that force forward. Now, the shift that we've been waiting for, and that's awful.
Yeah, it ain't pretty. But I mean, good for a few teams that are already positioned down to the south. But I mean, this space down to the west and the southwest side of this circle, again, you can't rotate in vehicles across it. It's so difficult. And once you get into one of these compounds, yeah, you're sitting pretty, but getting back out of them, if it shifts away once again from these fields, it's awful.
That's exactly it. And it's not about this specific shift, right? It's really the next shift that we're talking about. All the teams are already either in the circle or should be able to find their way in the circle in some capacity. The problem is once everyone gets settled in, you can see how tightly packed it is. That next shift, regardless of whether it's just a center shift, right, or even a hard shift, is going to be a bloodbath. So expect a lot of these teams to start setting up, getting the sight lines they need, and then potentially getting ready for a fight. Look at this cheeky little play. We see Kickstart actually on the road here, and Oath almost have their own little camp here on this road on the east side of the map.
Oh, look at this. Yep, 22 trying to wrap back down to the south there. Going to run into Zenith. Maluk will find Biznaga.
Haze 10
no more. Yeah, Haze 10 taking a little bit of damage. Whether or not he's going to get the last blow there. But again, there's another team further down. It's old times. Some more damage coming onto Haze 10, but still able to continue driving past.
And now it's potentially in Check's turn. No, they're actually going to make I say clean getaway, but a headshot, first shot out of Bale. Beautiful. That's with a red dot, by the way. Bale always being one of the more impressive mechanical players. Really nuts. But Incheck is going to survive. Poblex, luckily, does have some hills to work with here. And Incheck is not out of the woods yet. I mean, they still have to rotate potentially through 3 teams. 300, Old Times, Zenith. That's even if they make it through the first team. As the circle.
Yeah, I mean, this is similar to what I was talking about on the southwest side, right? Which is it's so difficult to make these vehicle rotations now because the roads are just scattered. There's so many teams setting up rotation traps and...
Oh, no.
The bumper cars from SDK.
Yeah. I mean, props to them. They threaded that rotation needle. I mean, look at the way that they cut through the teams. I mean, they're kind of getting pelted, but SDK is still surviving.
I mean, they're gonna get up above Cave, which is a really good position here to get a lot of vision down to the south.
Again, I don't know if they scouted this before. I'm sure they had an idea of where these teams were, but they threaded that needle beautifully well, and because of that, they're rewarded with arguably one of the best positions on this current circle.
That's what happens when you run the gauntlet successfully. You are rewarded with this position, and
they actually have so much information.
Nothing to the north of them as well, so they can pretty much focus all of their efforts on scouting into this next circle. And potentially, I mean, if this centers up, they're going to be in a really good spot. Just kind of north of center circle. 303 probably going to be in prime location if it does center up. But
Zenith as well. Another team, specifically one that I mentioned earlier, Puck, that I actually really like their position is Durrani. I mean, they're just kind of sitting all alone on the west side right now, taking account what teams are around them. And that shift even isn't the worst for Durrani. They can work their way in and try to take over Dodge. However, where this becomes a problem, and what we were talking about earlier, Puck, is the teams on the outside, specifically the east.
Yeah, I mean, look at it. There's the South Road and really another road that only cuts in 10% to this. So any of these teams over to the north and the east have a really hard time trying to get into the center here. SDK looking, they might try and opt to wrap down to the west and find a route.
Well, they do have playable space here, and they can kind of slow things down and get some information if they want. Seems like, no, they're actually just continuing to drive. I mean, they had so much vision and sightlines while they were up above the caves, but they're just driving down the road now. This is dangerous. I mean, it doesn't really matter for SDK, to be completely honest, but it's still dangerous. Penta! What is this bumper car? Do you see this?
Yeah. Well, Sonic's trying to repeat it as well, I guess.
Unbelievable.
I mean, I said this terrain's difficult to traverse in vehicles. Look at that, Roth actually finding Kurt and Penta in quick succession. Luke tagged down to less than half as well. Alo got to try and stabilize here and return some damage, and he will do just that.
Nice drive-by by Snakers. He is going to get the knock. Oath coming in full force. They have to be careful, though, and Ragestone on the other side has sightlines onto this fight, so they could do a decent amount of damage to both those teams, but is this actually recoverable for SDK? I mean, realistically, you'd think no, but the rest is coming off, and you never know. Alo could get a knock or two, relieve some pressure, and Purdy could get picked up. On top of that, Oath is actually still healing as well.
The problem being, I guess, with this situation, they've put a smoke down on top of Kurt, so it's going to give Oath an idea.
Yep.
Exactly. There you go. It's going to give them an idea exactly where to send some utility, and Kickstart does exactly that, finishing Kurt off with a nade.
Unfortunately, I think, potentially the play was not to smoke, even though it's such a reactionary thing to do. You know what I mean? It's just built in. So definitely not faulting SDK for that smoke play, but unfortunately it did cost Purdy from a well-placed nade from Oath, and now I believe it's just onto a 4v2 if they want to aggress this, but it's actually SDK throwing some lethal utility their way, but Oath has to know there's only 2 left, and meanwhile Spicy Fish in the back and 300 as well, just licking their lips, just waiting to get some damage on these knocks.
It pulls literally onto, I guess, the most problematic area. Again, here, there's going to be so many deaths on the edge. So many.
Meanwhile, though, I do want to point out, again, Durrani, that they went all the way from the west, they took their time, and then they ended up finding a really nice slot down there in the south part of the circle. And now, potentially, they could work with this. And still a wide split. We see Capitan all the way there.
Yeah, I mean, they got no pressure over there.
It's great. Great stuff from, again, love what I'm seeing from this team. Nice shot coming on to sharp shot from what I believe was Alo. And again, another lull. This is going to be stale. Obviously, a lot of these teams setting up.
I was going to say eyes for me go towards gas cans. Young and check it over on the east side here. Still got to make ways in. Is actually, gas can's going to pull up on the backside of a ridge, but that's only really going to give them another minute or two of rest, so to say. And checking now, making their rotation in also, but this is the thing, man. You have to find something on the edge of this circle, and more likely
you essentially have to find something out of nothing. Yeah, there's really nothing to play. So you're either going to have to push one of these other teams off, which we see fights starting to pop up all over the map. Gas Cans is going to get in a little bit of a tiff with Young Kings, as well as
man. They're still in a 2-2. It's Coffee, the only one left standing here, but this was after Honey Badger and Headkick had, sorry, not Headkick, Oldless had sent it into the circle, at least towards that ridge. So I'm surprised actually Adam and Nikos have kept this crash at bay.
I mean, it's not even, as well as wasn't even in the circle, but it was a very aggressive foothold that they took, and it worked out in the end. Now it's time for them to consolidate. Obviously, Gas Cans with a good place to play, as Zenith is trying to survive in check, but in check putting up a good fight here. Nox being traded abound. Recovery should be here for Zenith, though, as 97 is the last member alive, and he is nowhere close to this fight.
No, he's not. Shinboy going to get back on his feet. Zenith got themselves 4 kills. Again, they were trying to camp some of these rotations themselves, did a little bit of damage early on, but you see Durani actually flexing back over to the south side of the circle, could greet Zenith on their way in. Like I said, Zenith don't really have a lot of options. It's going to be a ridge at best for them.
And even still, at times I feel like they had so much control actually over this side of the circle, but realistically they didn't really move. They didn't try to impose their will on anyone, and because of that they're now having to fight Gas Cans on the outside of the circle, as we watch Oath meanwhile finally take their position over, actually no, not SK, it's 303, excuse me, that tried to crash in. SDK is actually still alive as a 2-0.
Oh my god, Lecro perfectly cooked, going to find Adam with that nade as Gas Cans at all times still go back and forth. Actually, you can see Youngkosh finding a knock onto Shimboy elsewhere. Gas Can, again, another knock comes through. Honey Badger now down, so Nikos and Oldless, a lot of pressure on them to try and recover from this pressure that Old Times are able to put onto them. Actually, yeah, looking like Old Times want to try and clean this up.
Look at the way they've come around. I was just kind of criticizing how they were a little slow to move in, but the way they've maneuvered themselves around Gas Cans has been very impressive. Meanwhile, Sonic's now starting to warm up and show up to the map, as they've been pretty quiet here on the northwest side. And Enrage, wow, also helping against the Gas Cans. We've talked about those splits, Puck, and how they don't always come to fruition, and it seems as though the consolidation effort here from Gas Cans was a little rough, as it's Old Times pushing the pace.
There's so much pressure over the east side here, as really anybody who's going to be the victor of this is Crochet finding a lot of damage onto Sonics as well. It's all kicking off here as phase 5 begins to close in. Look at that, Tiggleton down flush, H1 and Shrimsy down on the deck. Zampa going to try and get everybody back up. But again, 2 real pinch points over on the east side and the northwest here that, I mean, it's just going to be a bloodbath.
Yeah, absolutely. Here comes the step over from 303. Now 303's struggled. Still have 2 members. Definitely have a chance to get some much needed points. You see them in last place currently with 48. Starting to show some signs of life. The main issue is just as a team, I mean, this has been the story. They've been crippled. They've only had 1 or 2 members left by the end, and realistically, it's been hard for them to work with those numbers. But meanwhile, Dodge just absolutely destroys what's left of Sonics, as they were in a rough position as it was. And also, just like that, Akreshi is eliminated 11th.
Yeah, and Spicy Fish kind of starting to, I guess, get a little more hungry as the numbers dwindle now. They've obviously been sat in this compound for a long time. They were the initial team to open up onto STK. Alo's still alive, actually, I guess, over towards a hay bale or some kind of shed or shack or something in the middle of that field.
I think he's on like a hay bale or one of the farm equipment as well that are out in that field, like the irrigations. But he's going to survive. Oath still, I mean, they're really starting to dictate the north side of the circle, and realistically, all they have to do is wipe out 303, which they just did, and now Oath has all of this room to work with, and essentially it's going to be Dodge, I think, that they might find in the crosshairs, but actually Dodge has to go through two other teams. Realistically, it's a solo of Alo, but also Spicy Fish, as this is going to be a very spicy rotation. And 22, actually, I completely forgot 22 was down here in the southwest.
I was about to say, I think Dodge need to deal with 22 before making a move into the next circle, which is rightfully so what they're doing here, trying to mount an attack down the southwest side, but still, Old Times and Enrage going back and forth. This feels like it's been going on for the last 10 minutes now. Nobody overstepping their mark, but now with the circle posting, Psycho's just inside. It does leave it open, really. And Durani actually going to come over and try and third party this.
Perfect timing. Perfect timing. They've been waiting patiently. I mean, they've been here for a while, obviously gathering all this information, and now it's time for them to come online. They know the teams are fighting on the east, on top of the fact that they have so much control. And Rage, though, with 3 kills of their own, fighting for control.
Yeah, both teams very hesitant to be the one to make the first move, but Balkan actually going to swing over, find another knock and a flush. The numbers quickly fading away for Old Times here. 2 left alive. Actually, there you go. Not for much longer, out in 8th place.
And Durrani pushing the pace here. It's really just down to
Psycho
members.
just mollied himself? Sure, okay.
Yeah, that happened. Either way, Enrage was able to get at least a pickup there. As Oath is also, look at Oath, just up in the north, taking their time. They're watching this fight. They hear all this. And realistically, they're starting to move towards it, but Cuban might actually notice this. And what a knock coming from Balkan.
The Snakers will fall, but a lot of distance. A big gap to fill to capitalize on that.
And the other issue is now they're helping essentially Durani sandwich Enrage as they're stuck here on the northeast, and ultimately it's going to take a hell of a lot of good shots and knocks here to get them out of the situation. Still possible, though. Enrage has been playing quite well this last game. The other thing I want to point out as well is it's majority, finally, for the first time in Miramar, the Latin American teams that have actually made it towards the end here. We have 22, we have Durani. Obviously, we also have Enrage. Old Times we just knocked out, but finally some signs of life on the Miramar map for these guys. And all the teams are just essentially at this point waiting for the circle to close, Pog, because there's nothing. And it was in fact a tractor that Alo's been sitting out behind this entire time. And if he could get a shift, I mean, he could survive. That is actually huge for Alo.
Yeah, it is. Because it's going to relieve a lot of this pressure over to the east. I mean, 22 were the victors of that fight with Dodge over on the southwest side, and they've tried to position down, I guess, in this valley to try and find access to the next circle. But I mean, there can only be one victor out of the 3 teams that are currently positioned outside in the southeast.
True enough, Spicy Fish actually with one of the better positions, though. As you said, in that compound, realistically, they don't have to do anything. Let the circle kind of come to them. Let the teams maul them. But at the same time, I'm sure Oath wants the points. Nice shots coming out. Onto Capitan. He is going to get flushed. And Rage still fighting, still alive. And now Emmy has decided that it is time for him to make his presence known in this fight. They are going to be able to pick up LaCroix.
Oh, okay. Well, Emmy actually going to find that knock as well. Tries to come through. Durrani probably going to be able to get 3 back on their feet here as Adler trying to send some utility across to prevent another res coming through. But there you go. Actually, Balkan going to get flushed out. Like I said, the longer this goes on, the better it fares for 22 because they can get themselves stuck into a little spot in the defilade here as Emmy desperately trying to close out that kill, and he will do. Gooben falls and Rage out in 6th place. And now look at that, Halo finally. And it's onto Spicy Fish of all people. It's Uncivil that falls. The team that first struck onto SDK on their rotation into that circle.
Revenge is truly bittersweet. So that is actually going to alleviate quite a bit of pressure from Elo, at least at the time being. He's still not in the circle. He has to creep in a little bit. I'm not exactly sure if he has that much room or anything really to play up ahead, but Durrani might actually save him, considering how much pressure they're able to put on. Now, they're also not in. They have to make a journey on their own to get inside the circle. It's just Emmy now at this point as well, and I'm not quite sure he's going to make it, which leaves Elo in a very rough situation. That is going to be Durrani going out in 5th. And Elo now running for his life. Smokes are about to dissipate, throwing new ones. That's a rough situation for Elo. I mean, at this point, again, not that it matters, but any kill you can get for SDK.
I mean, again, a bad game for SDK, but they've made it to the top 4, man. Like, it is what it is.
Yep. I'm done talking about them.
Just keep bringing it up, man. It's crazy.
What can Elo do? The close to medium range god with the red dot. Clearly, it's just Oath as well, waiting. I mean, Oath has done nothing but wait after they fought their way hard to get in this position, and now they're just chilling, waiting to see if, first of all, 22 is going to make a move potentially onto Spicy Fish, or the other way around, because neither team, in fact, none of the teams aside from Oath are in the circle.
No, is Oath really now considering spreading out just a little bit? Maybe asserting a little dominance on the circle. Snake is actually sweeping all the way around to the north side. Alo just absolutely rips his head off. Snakers goes down. Maybe if he can get this flush out here, it's going to be a massive consolation for him. Oh, the second molly was on the right line, but just a little too far.
It's actually irritating how
accurate.
accurate.
He bleeds.
Yeah, it's irritating how accurate SDK is.
Dude, he has no business still putting kill points up, man.
Well, especially
he has no meds. He's just got to let this boost tick.
Well, he's going to grab some more potentially there off the body of whoever that is, actually. I think it might have been one of the SDK boys from earlier. But Alo's still alive. I did not think he was going to make it past that tractor. And 22 and Spicy Fish actually still have not engaged. I mean, Spicy Fish is no longer in the circle. In fact, 22 has gotten a foothold in, and this spells trouble for Spicy Fish now. A team that's generally so proactive and able to get in early, and especially in these shifts when they had that compound for so long, is going to get knocked and they're stuck.
Man. Look at it, boxed in against the wall and the compound, and yeah, I mean, 22 in the perfect position to greet them on the way out as soon as these smokes die. Balefrost's actually going to get Haze 10 down now. That will relieve some of the pressure onto Spicy Fish, but it's just a matter of time, really. Both teams on the south side playing this so passively. Spicy Fish ultimately now forced to just play survival.
Yeah, Alo could actually win this game as well. It is a 2v2v2v1.
I didn't want to say it, Godspeed. I didn't want to say it.
I'm looking at his positioning, the way he's moving, and the timing at which he's moving. It's absolutely winnable for Alo, especially that there's no team that has more than 2. And there's another knock onto Spicy Fish. Alo, of course, doing the smart thing now, turning his attention towards kickstart. He knows that these shots are going to garner the attention of one of the... I don't want to say anything. I'm so afraid that Alo is actually just going to clutch.
Please don't win this game, Alo.
For the fans.
For the sake of the Americas region, please. It's a 1v2.
2-on-1. Yep. Here we go.
And arguably, Alo has better access to the center of this circle. Yeah. Look at the way the terrain plays for Oath. It's going to be really difficult. Some preemptive smokes coming out already. Attack comes through. We already know Alo's well equipped to deal with this. He's got to stick this first aid, get himself back up whilst the circle closes in. And actually, Oath making the correct move and actually closing the distance a little bit towards the star whilst Alo does med.
Playing this 2v1 quite well. They have to be careful, though, not to split too much, as well as not to get too close. They don't want to give Alo any 1v1s. That's going to be the first knock.
No, dude.
That's the first knock. They split. That was absolutely massive. There was no potential for trade. Alo very low.
Bails out in the open.
Oh! And the blue
finishes him off. No way.
No way.
Oh my, Oath come out and win it with 8 kills, but I mean, they did exactly what they shouldn't have done, which was split up, giving 2 separate 1v1s, and I gotta say it, Alo's a player you never give that opening for, never give him the opportunity. I mean, luckily Bale does the damage necessary, and Blue Zone MVP to get the assist on that.
That could have been very sketchy. The fact that, yeah, like you were right, they gave him 2 1v1s, and in a situation like that, I mean, it's really hard to criticize as well. There were a lot of flashes, a lot of utility that went out towards Alo, but ultimately he was able to get that peak, and it was so clean that really it was the blue, I think, that saved. Bale, though, did do a lot of damage, and Oath overall played that very well.
I mean, it's difficult as well when you've got kind of distance to close, like in the wide open like that. Stacking up 2 together, it ultimately gives Halo a very good opportunity to find both kills at the same time, right? So they're trying to find a split angle, force him onto one side of the rock, and the other person's there with an angle to catch him. But I mean, that got dicey, man, real dicey.
It did. Ultimately, that wasn't a poor play at all by Oath. It was rough in that situation. You're right. They had to essentially either go together and potentially get just traded together with a nice spray down or go for what they did. In the end, Oath played the entire game very well. They were able to win it, and we saw a lot of bumper cars, it seems, this game.
Yeah, they did. I mean, this one looked a little more like Game 6 scrims than the last, but let's see. Well, an appropriate clip here with Snake is just pulling up. Dip was free, it seems. Luke 12. Yep. Falling to that drive-by, but it was so difficult here. There were so many teams that had to make these tricky vehicle rotations. Like I said, not a lot of roads into this circle.
No.
So all of these teams that were positioned down to the east, the northeast, the southeast, and ultimately, really, I mean, the south wasn't accessible with how many teams there were camping the main road itself. But I mean, it's just a byproduct of that scenario where we saw so many teams pushed into this, literally the same ridge, right? The same ridge, but 50 meters apart.
And we saw 3 teams fight at the same ridge. It was STK at one point. Oath was shooting out the Spicy Fish. So yeah, these circles, as we talked about, the terrain is not conducive at all to vehicles. It's very good if you're trying to foot push or you're trying to play that type of aggressive play style, but ultimately just getting in the circle was a pain for a lot of the teams, and we saw that. And on top of the fact that once circle settled, there was not a lot of action, Pac, because everyone was already set up waiting for the next ship. And that shot was out of control.
It's disgusting. Actually disgusting. And like I said, he has no business still putting up kill points here. I mean, after this, actually, he still finds a knock and a flush onto Spicy Fish and then the kill on kickstart in the end game.
But Oath, to their credit as well, I mean, they came into that dip, they did a lot of damage, they held out that dip as well from multiple teams, including teams coming and crashing in from the north, and yeah, this is where things got so sketchy. But again, I want to give props to Balefrost's presence of mind. He knew the blue was coming in, he took his time, and he stood his ground in the open, which is one of the scariest things to do in a 1v1 situation, so very well played to Balefrost.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that last tag there is... well, sealed the deal for them. And like I said, you know, Alo had the best access to the stars, so Oath closing the distance, it take nothing away from that at all. And, you know, you could argue as well, Kickstart, you know, giving his life up and making it possible for Balefrost to close it out. But, again, actually, shoot to kill. That's a bad game from shoot to kill. 10 points, man. Yeah, great.
All right, well, now that the shoot to kill train has completely just gone off the rails and is taking over. Let's look at the leaderboards here for the top kills of that match. And it was, not surprisingly, Bale, but right behind him as a solo for the last 3 circles, it's Alo.
It is, yeah. It's, you see as well, Dodge, they tried to make that move down to the south to push on to 22 Esports, but again, it happened off screen. Don't know exactly what happened. It looked like 22 Esports didn't really take too much damage in the mix, but yeah, I mean, a lot of teams that nobody really dominating any of those charts just because of the way that one played out, right? There were so many scrappy fights, people losing members in rotation and kind of getting through the mid game with only 2 or 3 players alive.
But again, I also want to give another shout out to a lot of the LATAM teams that came up, because Miramar has really been, at least in this event, the map that they struggled with the most. Most of the teams, including Durrani, have had their best games actually on Erangel. But as well, Durrani, I mean, another team that I talked about right before the game started. I said they've been looking really great. Yesterday, they showed us a lot of consistency. And then again, proving the same thing today, Pac.
Yeah, they have. And like I said, I'm fine with a few of these teams, you know, being late bloomers, so to say, in the finals here of the Masters Americas. But it's the thing, right? We're building the long story for this year, which is a few of these teams, we're expecting them to slot right in and start contesting towards the previous NA teams.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Pock, it has been 4 fantastic games for you and I don't know when they'll let us cast again together, but as well, even though that was it for the PUBG.
I always think it'll be the last one.
We do, including the first time we ever casted together. But even though that's it for us here with PUBG action, make sure you guys are checking out PUBG New State, guys. All the groundbreaking action you love, the PUBG PC game, of course, available. The new PUBG New State. Please check it out. That's going to be PUBG.newstate.com. Guys, excuse me. You got to check it out. Newstate.pubg.com. Well, that's it for us again. Thanks, guys. Sorry about all the technical issues, but we'll see you next time. Play more PUBG.
Developed by PUBG Studio, PUBG New State will launch as a free-to-play experience on Android and iOS in 2021. PUBG New State recreates the original Battle Royale experience and evolves it to make the most realistic Battle Royale experience on mobile, featuring state-of-the-art rendering technology that pushes the limits of mobile gaming. Make sure you pre-register on newstate.pubg.com now.
I know you want more, but that was game 4. We're back with an interview. My name's Toffees. I've got Clover, Cameron, and the Kickstart here joining me. Kick, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Cool. So, let's talk about the end of that game. Be real with me. Alo, 2v1. Was there a point where you started to get a little bit stressed that maybe Bell wasn't going to finish this thing?
Not that Bell wouldn't win. I was kind of just tilted that my flashes didn't stun him at all. Honestly, that's all I was thinking about.
You were thinking about flashing. I get that. I get that completely.
Yep.
All the time. Clover, save us.
I don't know. That's going to be a hard stretch to say, but no. I mean, you guys have been playing out of your minds. I know you've had some really strong games. You've had some games where you guys have kind of been a little bit under the radar, but still finding ways to get points. How are you feeling now that this is almost over in terms of the way that you're playing, not only against the other NA teams with who you're familiar, but some of these LATAM teams?
Honestly, I didn't hear a lot of the question. I just heard you say that we were playing out of our minds, and I completely disagree. We've been playing like trash for the last couple of days, and I don't know. I'm happy it's going to be over, but yeah, I don't know.
I guess let me ask it again then. How comfortable do you feel now that you've had this much time to play not only against some of the other NA teams, but also LATAM in the mix? Has that really been changing things for you guys?
Okay, yeah. It changes a lot. Like, they play a lot different than us, and it's very interesting getting into the lobby. Like, pretty much everyone has to play a little bit differently, and yeah. It's great, though. I'm really happy that it happened. It's going to help us a lot, I think, as a region.
Okay. Yeah, so I wanted to ask a little bit about the roster move that you did, moved over from Zenith after a great performance at PGIS. I'm curious, share however much you're comfortable with, but of course, what were your reasons for moving on to Oath, and how has that process been for you? You've been on them for a while now. We're more than halfway through an entire tournament with them. So what were expectations, and how has that sort of played out? And then if you want, maybe a little too early for that because this event isn't over, but then how are Oath going to be moving on into the future after this one?
I mean, it's good so far. I don't see any complaints really, but I mean, after PGI, I mean, obviously we're all friends, and I don't think they expected it. I don't think I expected it. I got a little stressed out because we didn't know who our fourth was going to be, and that was a little stressful. And then I got the offer from that, and I kind of just jumped on it because I was very worried about who our fourth was going to be. So I think I made the right decision, but I guess we'll see.
Who's the fourth? Who's the fourth? I guess I'll take the Oath. I get it. Let me ask you about that makeup of the team, though. It is a very young team. I know you're no stranger to playing with other younger players. But as far as age goes, I think you guys may have one of the lower collective ages. Do you think that's an advantage or a disadvantage for you?
I think me and Rello are very, like, mature. So even though we're pretty young, I feel like we're both very mature people, like, even out of game. So, I mean, I don't think it's like bad at all. I think it's really good. Like, we have all of us are like really good at aiming. I think I'm probably the worst aimer on the team. As weird as that sounds, it might sound, but I think I'm probably the worst aimer on the team, but I don't know. I think it's really good. We just get to shoot everyone when we get the chance.
It's fascinating that you think that you have the worst aim on the team, but you're actually currently 5th overall for headshots in the entire event. So something to be said for that. But congratulations, good win. You're moving up. I know you're not happy with the performance, but hey, top 8, at least we're doing something, and we've got 4 more games to go. Any last words or shout-outs or anything you want to do before we call it a night?
Thanks for all the fans supporting us. Thanks for all the fans supporting me, even though I did switch teams. I appreciate it. Yeah, I gained a lot of fans after PGI, and it's crazy to think. Like, it's just crazy. Thanks to everyone. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you for coming on the interview. My eyes are up here. I loved watching you. Great play. Have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
I got to give Kickstart a hard time. Love them. Been around for a long time. It was, gosh, I remember the old days, Kickstart, sharp shot combo. All right, we're not going to reminisce. This is where we're at now. End of the last game of the day. Cameron, I'm going to have you walk us through the scoreboard, see where the chips lie as we go into the last day of play.
Shocker. SDK still at the top. I mean, it's... Whew. I mean, when their worst game is still, like,
Right.
they get minimum, like, 6-7 points a day. And here, when Alo had no right getting into second place with as many kills as he did, he had 1 kill as a solo player when there were still, like, 7 other teams up. So the fact that they still get second place with a good number of kills is absolutely ridiculous, absolutely stupid. But as far as the rest of those standings are concerned, we still have 300 in second place. It's looking pretty good for everyone else overall.
I mean... again, I mean, look at the overall. I don't. Clover, take this. I don't even know.
It is looking good for shoot to kill. Alo 41, Pinta and Luke 40 apiece. But I want to put out Amy, Durani. We didn't see, I think, as strong a performance today as they had yesterday, but there were still some moments of brilliance. We still saw them holding onto that position in the leaderboard, having a good climb, and I think that we're still going to continue seeing that trend through LATAM. But at least the story of today has been a lot of NA, as we can see the damage leaders right now: shoot to kill, Sonic, Zenith, Oath. All a big climb here, and you look at that. Luke 12 finally surpassed 10K.
Well, no, look at Kickstart being in the top 5 of damage dealers, and he thinks that he's the worst aimer out of his team. Like, listen, I know the Oath boys are really, really good, and I honestly don't know how I would rate all 4 of them. First through 4th, it would be incredibly close overall. So maybe there is a world that he is, by however metrics we could devise to measure it, the worst aimer there. I just think that it's a little silly that he didn't expect to get as many fans from PGIS, considering the performance that he put up was absolutely ridiculous. And so if you haven't been a fan of Kickstart before now, you gotta be. He's such a good player, such a great player.
I want to butt in too, because I think when we have these plays where there is a solo at the ends and we see a solo up against multiple players, Alo, Kickstart, 2 names that come to mind that really have a tendency to clutch those fights out. So I want to give credit where credit is due, not only to Kickstart, who we just had on, but also to Alo, because that is the consistency and the reliability that you want on people in your team.
I mean, Alo was clearly grumpy yesterday. We spent the whole day talking about Luke and Penta and how great they've been doing, and then Alo came out and by far and away got more kills than anyone else on his team today. Got a ton on the board and climbs up past them in overall kills. So you got to respect that tenacity. STK seems unstoppable, and it's been exciting to watch them play. If you guys are not excited about watching good play, this next announcement is not for you. But if you do like good PUBG, you want to play good PUBG, now is your chance. The PCS4 America qualifiers registration is now open. Sign up to secure your chance at a share of $250,000 in prizes. The qualifiers, they start on May 5th, so you're running out of time, not only to sign up for this, but also to order your Mother's Day present. That is close too, so public service announcement for you. Register, then order present, then play PUBG. All right, that's all the time that we have for today. It was a lot of fun. Who can catch STK at this point? I don't know, but we'll see if it happens tomorrow. Before we sign off, though, I love final thoughts. Let's do them now. Clover, you're up first.
You know, definitely a lot of climbing from LATAM teams today and some teams that really needed to make some progress on the leaderboard. It may not be possible to catch STK, but second place, third place, it's up for grabs. And there's a lot of teams that I think that could shake it up going into tomorrow.
PGC points are PGC points. If you can't get first, get something. Cameron, final thoughts?
Yeah, it's essentially the same thing. Tomorrow is all going to be looking for the fight for second place. SDK might have virtually secured first at this point, but it's only a 9-point gap between 300 and SQ right behind them. Or I don't actually know the actual numbers. I'm looking at the previous leaderboard, but still, it's not that far of a gap for fighting for second place, which is still money, which is still PGC points. So I think it's still going to be a really exciting time.
And prize. There are third-party events throughout the year that will probably be invitational. Get high rankings. Get invited. Guys, that's it. That's all we've got for you today. We appreciate you being here. It means the world to us, from myself, from Clover, from Cameron, from Hypoc, from Godspeed, and the rest of the team. Thank you for spending your evening with us. And until we see you tomorrow at the same time, at the same place, for the last 4 games, play more PUBG.